Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President Samuel Ronan speaking, and today is U.S. Propaganda Tuesdays. And boy, oh boy, have we been delivering this past week. Good God. First in, yes, Tyler, you made it. Beat Anna, no less. As you can see, also, aside from propaganda, which we will get into, notice the changes. There, we're gonna do a red background with gold lettering for the socialism. But no, you'll notice a few things that we updated for this week, and I think we're definitely gonna stick with this because I think it's more vibrant. When I was using the different background, the red didn't quite read very well, and I don't want to do like bubblegum red because that's too red. It's like red. But yes, and the other fun thing, which I don't know if I should reveal it now, but I'm sure once I get off the chains, you'll see. Let's just say once I go off the chains, which I'm sure will happen within the next hour, we'll see what else I have in store for everyone. But in terms of what we're talking about today, obviously U.S. politics, obviously, I mean, Trump is talking about getting rid of mail ballots, voting mail ballots. We're going to discuss the few people that are actually talking about the voter election, the election rigging from the past election cycle. We're also going to talk about the martial law in D.C. and God knows what else. Of course, other notable things is that Epstein is notably absent from national news, which I'm sure we're still going to cover that, but it's notably absent in national news. And in Texas, we have a black female congresswoman, representative, being held against her will in the Texas legislative building because she refuses to sign a permission slip to have police escort her wherever she goes, which I don't know if you all remember Jim Crow, either from school or personally, but pretty fucking reminiscent of that era. So, plenty of shit to talk about. Yeah, honestly, I think What the Fuck America is kind of better, honestly. Honestly, it's whatever grabs people's attention, to be honest. Let's just do What the Fuck America. Maybe we'll see. The socialist vibe. Yes. Well, that's the thing. Red, white, and blue works, but it doesn't capture the attention. And yellow and red might invoke, the red scare. But most people our age, or my age, because Anna's 8,000 years old plus, most people millennial or younger don't give a damn about communism or socialism. In fact, we're ready to do any other ism, other than, of course, fascism, than the bullshit that we've been dealing with. So the yellow and the red should be pretty evocative, if anything. We could save... Well, I mean, it's U.S. propaganda. Is that evocative? No, because I'm talking about for the title. The title... probably WTF America is more catchy. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I'll let you and Anna discuss that one behind closed doors. But, actually, let me check my bitrate because I was in the middle of uploading to YouTube when we ran. So I think we should be good. Anyway, let's jump into it. My throat's already beginning to get scratchy. It's really cold in my in the Oval, and I really want to wear a blankie while doing this, but I'll just have to figure this out. WTF, Sam? What did I do? I just said about being cold and needing water. Getting a blankie? Well, I don't have my socialist blankie yet, so just get like a big red hammer and sickle blanket. Damn. I'm sure they have them. Alright. So, leading the movement to end mail-in voting, which, insane. Texas House Democrats block the redistricting vote and then, terrorize one of the Democrats. Yeah, I know, my throat. I honestly, and I know the raving masses that just are at the edge of their seat for 7 o'clock Eastern to watch us stream want me to stream more often, but we might actually need to do that. We'll talk more about that, Anna, as our availability changes here in the next few weeks. We might want to actually consider more days or longer or something. I don't know yet. I don't know how, but we'll figure something out. We've got Gov Newsom, who's trying to present himself as the blue Democratic presidential nominee by targeting MAGA and so on and so forth. Oh my goodness, now I got the hiccups. But yeah, just a whole bunch of shit. Just billionaire danger, ISIL assaults, Miss Collier continue to be stuck. I mean, we might not have the density of videos, but the topics. So, I'll try and watch these videos all the way through, but we might actually need more content. We'll see. Let's see how quickly I go through these.
All right, this feels almost illegal.
Immediately,
we're so old.
Immediately with the ads.
Desperately needed to.
President Trump says he will sign an executive order to get rid of mail-in ballots and voting machines.
By the way, a show of hands, who knows if Trump can actually sign an executive order, and if so, which branch of the government actually dictates how elections and votes are carried out? Yeah, no, he does not have the authority, and guess what branch does? That's right, the legislative branch. It's insane. It is absolutely fucking insane that he keeps governing by executive order when he literally can't. When he literally can't, according to the Constitution.
Studies have shown mail-in voting fraud is rare, and in those few instances, the perpetrator was punished and votes were never counted. But the president now says elections can never be honest.
Well, this is the crazy shit, too, because Trump himself used mail-in ballots. I've used mail-in ballots while I was active duty, and it's simply more convenient to do a mail-in ballot than it is to go in person.
Mail-in ballots. ABC News Washington Bureau Managing Editor Catherine Falders is here with more on that. Catherine, states run elections, not the federal government. So how much power does the president have here? And what does the data show about mail-in voting and voting machines?
Well, we know that Trump obviously has long blamed his 2020 election loss on mail-in voting. The data hasn't shown that to be a statement of fact, frankly, at all. And to your point, yes, states do run their elections. It's not like the federal government or the executive can just jump in and change that. That doesn't mean that he being President Trump won't try to through an executive order that he says he will sign. I'm not sure if that's actually been drafted.
But see, this is the crazy thing. He's also trying to ban voting machines. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The voting machine thing is a valid concern. It's a valid concern because certain companies can be influenced by other companies and other individuals to be pressured into doing whatever with the software. So voting machines need to be heavily regulated. The problem is, if you have the executive, the judiciary, and the legislative branches at the federal level all in cahoots to rig elections, and you have all of the states, or a lot of the states, dominating their three branches to get into cahoots, to rewrite their districts so that they can rig elections, the ability for government, which is the regulating authority, to actually regulate without bias is gone. So, on the one hand, yes, we do need better, safer voting machines. Absolutely. I 100% do agree with that. However, if it's this administration or the administrations in Texas, and the other deep red states doing the regulating, then you may as well just get rid of elections at that point, and that is precisely what is being attempted right here. This is an open-faced, bold-faced attempt to not only eliminate faith in the electoral process in general, but to steal the elections broadly. And then to target and punish Democratic states and governments outright by declaring them unlawful, declaring them plagiarizing or whatever else, right? While all the red states just miraculously get red sweeps even when they shouldn't. So, although, yes, the voting machines are a concern, and a valid concern, they can be tampered with, the fact that this administration is going to be the one to do the regulating or to try and resolve that issue is deeply, deeply concerning. Now then, I got the computer back, so now when I look, I'm actually looking instead of, anywhere else. I go in person because I like the drama. Of course you do. I always take Leia with me when possible. At least that makes it educational. The video about Trump rigging the 2024 election actually talks about how easy it is to rig the voting machines. Yes, and that's the point, especially given that, within his first week of this election, of him winning this election and getting inaugurated, didn't he outright talk about how Elon Musk knows those voting machines really well in each of the battleground states, and that he managed to win, even though technically it didn't seem likely that he would win them by the margins he ended up winning them? And I'm not saying Kamala Harris deserves to win. I'm not. First of all, the Democrats rigged their own election, which in of itself is election tampering, right? But in 2017, they argued in court that the Democratic Party can rig their elections, and that not only are they allowed to do that, but Democratic voters should be under no illusion that the Democrats can, and that their votes actually don't matter. Which, how can you have a fair and unbiased election process if one party can dictate the terms of who the nominee is? Now, sure, it's harder to rig elections in places like New York City, where there is very obvious, very clear and present favoritism against the preferred nominee. But then again, that's exactly what the DNC did against Bernie Sanders, because he would have won the nomination against Hillary Clinton. So if we want to talk about election integrity and rigging, we have to go back way further than 2024 or 2020. We have to go all the way back to 2016 and really 2015, the primaries that led up to the election. So the egregiousness, the lack of trust in our electoral system has been profound over the past decade, minimally, but we could argue the past 2 decades, when Bush and Al Gore were battling it out in Florida, and Florida ended up tilting towards Bush, even though that was, the first presidential election where a president won the Electoral College but lost the popular vote. I believe that was the first, if I'm not mistaken, because when I was in school, I believe, that 2001, I was definitely in school, and we learned about that. So, all I'm saying is, whatever the case may be with the election tampering and the fraud and this, that, and the other, neither Kamala nor Trump are duly elected officials for the president, and certainly not valid candidates. The only ones who actually fought for the process and gained genuine access would have been people like Cornel West and Jill Stein. Now, I am going to give myself an attaboy. I was at least registered as a presidential nominee or candidate in the 2024 presidential election, and all those other nominees have since either capitulated to Trump or have their own gross involvement in election tampering and criminal activity besides, which would deem them ineligible as well if we actually had a just democratic society. So as far as I'm concerned, I am the president, right? I'm the only one that ran under a major party. But at the very least, we should have special elections. I think this administration needs to be removed from office wholesale, thrown in prison, have every single one of their decisions revoked. This Congress stripped of their powers, their authorities, and their positions, thrown in prison, and have all of their legislation and actions stripped and thrown away. And the Supreme Court, every justice that has been nominated since the end of the Obama administration, needs to be removed and thrown in prison and charged accordingly, and all of their decisions repealed. We need to just roll back the clock. Granted, we could even argue further to go back beyond Clinton or Bush or whatever else, and just roll it all the way back to Reagan. But to simplify things, the past decade, I think the past, from 2016 all the way back to 2016, I think we can just erase that shit and call it a day, because what the fuck, America, right? So, hello, True Steel. You are me. We are you. We are all one. We are Sam. Kalima. All right. Back to the video.
Inside the White House or reviewed by any lawyers, but that's what he says. And we have to read the fine print of that. The reality is states run their elections, and whatever Trump does to try and change that will surely be challenged in court. I'm sure that's something that will be litigated. Of course, he might try and pressure various Secretary of States.
But here's the problem, too. So he writes the executive order, everybody immediately falls in line, but then it gets challenged in court. It gets litigated in court, all the while the executive order is carried out, whether or not it's lawful. So you see the fucking problem here, right? If an executive order is unlawful, it should be immediately unlawful. Period. Dot. There doesn't need to be deliberation. And it shouldn't even be enforceable until it has passed the minimum crucible of being deemed legal, right? Being deemed constitutional. But we don't even do that. So, again, this goes back to constitutionality and whether or not we even still have a functioning democracy, which we can largely argue we don't. If Trump can rule with executive orders and then ignore the Supreme Court rulings that tell him to stop, and then he just does it anyway, then we don't have a democracy. We don't even have a Republican democracy. We have an authoritarian dictatorship with bells and whistles that make it seem like it isn't. And that's kind of where I feel we are at. And it's not improving.
Different states to change their laws. We'll ultimately have to see how this plays out. This is very preliminary, it seems. He's just posting this on his social media platform, saying this is something he's going to do. He hasn't done it yet.
President Trump told Fox News he discussed mail-in voting with President Putin in Alaska on Friday. So what do you make of the timing of this announcement?
The timing is quite suspect in that sense, right? He said, as you note to Fox News, that they discussed mail-in voting and that Trump said that Putin agreed with him that there shouldn't be mail-in voting, and that he said there's no mail-in voting in any other country in the world. Well, the reality is that Russia has mail-in voting. Many countries have
It's funny because
voting. So,
well, it's not funny. It's not funny in a ha-ha way. It's funny because the blatant corruption and just easy manipulation that we are seeing. Putin's like, well, no other country does it, knowing goddamn well his own country does it. Now, granted, Putin is himself an autocratic dictator, right? Russia has a democracy, but Putin's the government of Russia. And every time the Constitution says otherwise, he gets it amended so that he stays in power. And the fact that he is so easily playing Trump like a fiddle should deeply concern everyone. Everyone, not just Democrats, but Republicans too. It's like, what do you mean your fearless leader is that easily swayed by a foreign power? Like, are you kidding me? Right. To the point where, if Russia had succeeded in infiltrating America's politics and the highest offices in the country, to include the presidency, what would that plant do differently than Trump is doing? And the answer is nothing.
at least what some people would say, and some.
And why does he have the little tiny hands?
Putin, is that it appears that.
Oh wait, actually, he has tiny hands because Putin's apparently 5'7". Like I always thought Putin was much taller because they always have him photoshopped riding a bear. So I just thought he was like 6 foot or something, but he's like 5'7". He's like my mother's size.
This would be Putin having an influence over Trump's decision-making again, specifically as it has to do with elections. Now, in Trump's Truth Social post, it's worth pointing out that he didn't say he was taking that action based on any conversation that he had with the Russian president, but the timing does seem
What does Puerto Rico have anything to do with it?
Said it was something that they discussed during their meeting last week.
Oh, PR. Jesus. What does Puerto... I'm sorry, guys. My bad. We'll just edit that out and
I told my grandpa it was a scam, but he bought it anyways. It's called the
That's an
Jet
AI
and it's a
video. What the fuck?
German-designed
New this morning, President Trump announcing he plans to sign an executive order to end mail-in voting.
Bro, whoever told you those glasses are working for you lied. Straight up fucking. I shouldn't judge people on their appearances at all, because, I mean, look at me, but, bro, whoever told you that was a good idea straight up lied to you and wants to hurt you. Like, oh my god. Wow. I'm just gonna say that.
Made the announcement earlier this morning on Truth Social. He claims...
Okay, so this is the whole phrase. I guess we're not going to go over this whole video because they kind of did cover it pretty well in the last one. This one just happens to be a bit longer. But yeah, so going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots, highly inaccurate, expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, which is crazy because if he's going to get rid of voting machines and calls them controversial, and it was voting machines that got him elected, you know, in those battleground states, then he's literally saying the quiet part out loud. Sophisticated watermark. So I guess my question here is he suggesting that people just go back, we all go back to paper ballots at the polling places and have to pen it all in? Because, like, I have a feeling, didn't we find out that boxes upon boxes of ballots were just dumped or hidden or not counted at all during the first Trump election? So, never mind rigging the election through, you know, hacking the voting machines. Just let's not count any votes that are from Democrats, and let's be honest here. This is probably what'll happen. If the ballot has a Latino sounding name, they're gonna claim that they're illegal. Like, I'm calling it out right now. I'm calling it out right now. At 7:22 p.m. on August 19th, 2025, the year of our Lord. This administration is going to determine that 20% of cast ballots, or I don't know if the Latino population is higher per capita in terms of casting their vote, but 20% of the population in America is Latino. Like, that's a fact. That is an unequivocal fact, right? And they're already being targeted by ICE and the military and everyone else, which none of which is illegal, but they're doing it, right? So now you're going to have a bunch of Hernandez and Gonzalez and Diosas and whatever else voting on paper, and it's either going to be determined that they're illegal, it's going to be determined that their names couldn't be read, or that they're the wrong party affiliation, or only get counted if they voted for Republicans. Like, again, and that's even assuming that there's going to even be people to hand count the ballots, which that's just, again, this box, yeah, we're going to give that one to Trump. Like, the sheer amount of election tampering and corruption that is about to unfold is going to be biblical. It is going to be racist. It is going to be very, very discriminatory. And that's even assuming the elections themselves are held without martial law and without ICE being present in every single polling station, which will again be considered voter intimidation, which is severely illegal. So even if this administration had altruistic reasons for the voting machines and mail-in ballots, which it doesn't, the fact that they are going to use ICE to terrorize communities, especially in deeply Latino communities, to prevent Latino communities from coming out to vote, which I think historically vote Democrat, but I think is getting closer to being 50-50 nowadays. Either way, you also throw in the military to intimidate black people in black communities, which they've already done in terms of cutting down voting and polling locations in predominantly black communities. You're just setting the stage to rig this election by making it impossible for people to feel safe to even go out unless they are white. And even then, a lot of white people, especially uneducated people, especially in off-presidential election years, tend to vote Republican. The more people show up to vote, the more liberal-leaning the votes tend to be, which unfortunately also means Democrats end up winning. But the reality is, if you make it impossible and fearful and intimidating, who are you voting for? I'm with ICE. I'm with the military. You better vote the right way. Are you with Antifa? Are you pro-Palestine? Do you support illegals? Like, if there's anything where they can accost you or prevent you from getting in there by asking you any questions whatsoever, that is election tampering. So it's gonna be pretty crazy, to say the least, how this 2026 election cycle ends up panning out. But my statement, my theory, my premonition is that these changes will result in significant voter disenfranchisement against the Latino and Black community. And they still challenge the hanging chads. That's what they do with the mail-in ballots. True, and that's exactly what they did, right? It's a numbers game. Less votes favor the fascist, as it does. And then Obama got 71% of the Latino vote. Kamala got 56%. So Latinos do tend to vote more Democrat than Republican, but at the same time, Kamala is basically a Republican. In fact, she was running to the right of Trump on several issues, or trying to. So Biden was actually to the left of Kamala, which is a disturbing thing to say out loud. Let's see what's more on this video. Let's just skip ahead here a little bit, though.
Bill, good morning. I'm here with political science professor Patrick Shatner to talk about President Trump's announcement here. Thanks for being
Patrick
with us.
Shatner?
One of several states that does have mail-in voting. And I think in the last election, presidential election, we were having around 78% voter turnout, which is pretty high across the
That is actually pretty high. 78%. Most democracies actually have obligatory voting, which I think they call it something else. But for a country that doesn't have obligatory voting, a 78% turnout is actually pretty damn good.
What would is this even legal for him to take this measure?
Well, I would tweak what you said a little bit first off. Washington is one of the few states with vote by mail only, but every state has some sort of absentee or vote by mail sort of provision. So this is something that would impact every state. But long story short, no, the president doesn't really have any authority on this at all. The Constitution specifically vests each state with control over the electoral system, although it does say Congress can pass laws that can influence rules around federal elections.
And right now, Republicans control both houses of Congress, Senate and House. Could they conceivably do this, pass something here and change this?
No, unless they killed the filibuster, they would need to get 60 votes. Democrats are not going to go along with this.
So this is the part that kills me too. Like, what does the filibuster have anything to do with it? Because didn't our Lord and Savior Jeffries, I believe it was, go and filibuster for 25 hours and like 9 minutes or something stupid like that, and then immediately voted to approve a Trump appointee anyway? So like, he filibustered and then voted for the legislation anyway. So like, how is a filibuster in any way going to deter that? I don't understand. But also, for being a Fox affiliate, that guy was not playing the party line, which is interesting. He's actually doing his job. Good for him.
It is possible they could try to blow up the filibuster over this, but I think if they were going to kill the filibuster, it'd be over something more significant than electoral reform.
Now, we've predicted a move like this before with Trump. He's talked about this in the past, but he's only floated the idea of requiring mail-in ballots to arrive on election days instead of just being postmarked. Is it fair to call today's announcement an overreach here of his power?
This is a drum he's been beating for a while. Interestingly, if you saw the interview he had after the meeting with Putin, He talking about this with Putin, and I think this might be where that idea is coming from. This is
I mean, coming from a Fox affiliate, the guy that they brought into, I don't even know what their intention was here, but this guy's even saying, I'm pretty sure Putin kind of put the bug in his ear and now he's running with it. That's wild.
definitely something that's not within presidential power, though.
Yeah, well, that alone to a lot of people would be kind of troubling if he's taking advice on elections from
Putin.
Vladimir Putin. It's not just President Trump, though. In the past, Republicans have expressed interest in getting rid of mail-in voting over election fraud concerns, and that comes up a lot. But are those concerns
No, but see that, I mean, okay, no, I'll let him talk.
valid? Is there really any evidence out there that we have seen widespread election fraud through the mail?
No. The vote by mail does have concerns around it, but voter fraud is not one of them in particular. States that adopt vote by mail only, in particular, like Washington, like Oregon, like California, have very robust checks. You have to sign it, and it's tested against historic signatures. You may have had your signature challenged in the past, so they have lots of obstacles to prevent fraudulent voting, and all the evidence we have suggests that it's almost non-existent.
The Secretary of States that we've had that oversee
That's kind of the other point. Plus, then you don't. So that's the other thing with the mail-in ballots, though, and apparently I didn't realize that Jesus. I've been listening to so much Trump. I said Canada as part of our states. I am so sorry, Canada. Maybe you'll join the country when I'm president and we can work together. I don't know. I'm not telling you should, but at least I won't be a fascist dictator when or if that conversation happens. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. I did not know that California has a mail-in ballot only initiative. That's actually pretty interesting because I think California has a significant portion of the population of America. California population, I don't 39.43 million. Like 40 million people voting by mail, and they're counting it. That's pretty impressive. And speaks to a very robust counting system that they would have. I mean, you'd have to stick those ballots. There's no way you're counting 39 million. I don't care if you had an army of like several thousand people. Like you would. The only way to do it accurately would be to stick that into like one of those, like the SATs had or the ACTs had, one of those kind of test reading machines. But that just, again, speaks to the validity of mail-in ballots. Plus, and perhaps even more importantly, is the fact that it gives the USPS, the U.S. Postal Service, the only industry guaranteed by the Constitution, a chance to thrive. Now, granted, the post office thrives in many other ways, regardless. But like, if ever the post office could be a tool for good, for liberty, for justice, for democracy, guaranteeing the mail-in ballot should be one of them. And if I'm not mistaken, everybody gets a mail-in ballot anyway, or should. I know in Ohio you do, and in several states that's the only way to vote. So, like, in Ohio, I get my ballot in the mail, and then I can choose to fill it out, or I can go and do it in person. I think you have to pay for the stamp. But you know what? How much is a stamp? I don't know. How much is a U.S. stamp? Oh, it's 78 cents. Holy shit. That goes up. That has gone up. Although, I guess so 78 cents though. Don't get me wrong, it's going up there. I thought it was 69, but it went up again. But still, 79 cents to cast a vote, like that's not that big of a deal, all things considered. I obviously couldn't afford sending out 1,000 mailers like that. That gets pretty pricey pretty quickly. But yeah, 66 cents. I thought it was 61 actually, but. Yeah, the fact that it keeps going up, and they keep cutting postal workers, and then they keep cutting the sorting machines, and is insane. So, and this would be the part where I could segue into, like, well, as president, I will ensure that we have a much more robust U.S. Postal Service system, and that we rely less on traditional transportation methods, and invest in trains! And fossil fuel transportation vehicles so that we can lower the cost of transportation. But, all of which to say, I think that's pretty much all we need to do in this video. Trump is full of shit, and he's taking the lead from Trump. So, and don't forget to redeem the trains! Oh my god, stop giving me these stupid pop-ups, you damn thing. I just wanted to redeem the trains! Hold on. Son of a biscuit. What happened to my trains? Where did my alert box go? Copy box source. Add source. Web page. Box. Well, I apparently suck. So, let's try that again. Let's see. Try this one. Okay, so we need to make that bigger. One of these days, I will be good at my job as a streamer. Today is not that day. But perhaps one day. Alright, I don't know. I think we'll just have to... Well, damn. Sexy Sam is driving all the way to DC. Yeah. Something like that. Well, also, the way this webcam works with the full... If we don't have the full dynamic color, I look extremely pale. Like, it's like a completely different video setting. But with it, it makes me look like I have makeup on and that I'm red in the face, so... Tee. Alright. Let's cover the Texas bullshit.
Allergic to everything? You can tell it.
Democrats forcing that first special session officially at the Texas Capitol to end today, preventing Republicans ultimately from approving those new congressional maps. But the fight's not over. It's going to continue on.
And the governor had said second special session. It's already happened. It's underway. Democrats still standing firm on their efforts, though. Ion Politics reporter Jack Fink getting us underway. He's live at the Capitol this afternoon. Any word on when the lawmakers plan to come back to Texas? We've reported they've talked out loud about it, but where are we?
Oh my God! Please don't encourage
Doug and Nicole,
the chat.
The prevailing view from lawmakers I've spoken with is that Democrats will return to the Capitol on Monday. The session is set to start at noon. No one was surprised that the first special session ended early today, and that's because Democrats had said they wanted to kill it from the start.
It's kind of crazy that there are enough Democrats in Texas to actually prevent the Texas legislator from doing anything. That's shocking to me, personally. I just did not think that there were that many Democrats in Texas, but hey, that's why they want to redistrict.
Speaker Dustin Burrows ended the first special session at 10 a.m. after the House again failed to establish quorum. 95 House members showed up. They were 5 short of what they needed, which is 100. Governor Greg Abbott called for the second special session to start at noon. And
that is a big fucking gavel. Why does he have Thor's hammer as a gavel? What the hell?
Failed to establish quorum. The governor has set 19 items on the agenda. It includes all of the same issues as before, such as new congressional maps, but also property tax relief efforts and legislation addressing the deadly Central Texas flooding from last month. One new item
Texas AG said Biden would have won Texas in 2020 if he didn't throw out a bunch of votes. Well, that's kind of... Isn't that what we were saying? Is that these states and in these legislators are literally just ignoring ballots and lying about things, which is why I personally think we should have the digital voting machines, because you can save the data, right? Same thing with the mail-in ballots. You theoretically should be able to see how many were received in the post office, and then keep track of that, and then also how many went through the voting machine. If you received 39 million votes in the mail. Well, I guess that wouldn't be accurate. I don't know. Say you received 17 million ballots in the mail, and then you only counted 16 million of them. Chances are, like, somebody somewhere should be like, that's a problem. There's no way a million people fucked that up. Just, there's no fucking way. Texas, well, here's the thing, too. Most states would not only be Democratic, but would also be leftist populist if the elections weren't rigged. And gerrymandered, for that matter. Wow. Gerrymandering is why the country has a split between Republicans and Democrats anyway. Gerrymandering is also why a majority of districts are red in rural America. And then on top of that, Democrats, the ones that are in power, the ones that are elected, remain in power because they rig their elections against leftists. But people repeatedly and overwhelmingly vote for left-leaning ideologies. Always. Because people generally realize, like, yeah, I can't afford shit, so let's vote for the person that wants us to be able to afford shit. But because of gerrymandering, and then because of Democrats undermining grassroots movements, and then on top of the other corruption that goes on, like, yeah, there is no fucking way. Man, we aren't even an hour into it, and I'm down 1 cup of water already. This isn't gonna go well. Red states are already rigged to hell. This is not what Schoolhouse Rock taught me. Yeah, right? How does a bill become... Or I'm a bill on Capitol Hill. It used to be da-da-da-da-da, and now it's piles of money and other corruption involved. So yeah, no, straight up fuckery, to say the least.
Includes ensuring summer camps are safe for campers. Democrats have said they wanted to delay Texas Republicans from approving the new congressional maps, which will likely end up with 5 new GOP majorities.
This is the other thing that gets me. How can you change the district maps during an election year? Like, if they... 2025 isn't technically the election year. Okay, fine, whatever. Oh, you should only be able to do that during the census or something, right? You shouldn't just be able to arbitrarily be like, you know what would be grand right now? It's Tuesday. Let's just redraw the districts to heavily skew in our favor. And then, how is that itself legal? Like, they are blatantly talking about redistricting on not only just the fact of making it more Republican, but Greg Abbott himself, which I don't know if I saw that video, Greg Abbott himself said that it was racially motivated, which makes it illegal regardless. Again, we've already established, legality doesn't change the fact that it gets implemented. Legality means it gets overturned at some time in the future, and if that takes longer than the election, then guess what? Too late. And if those people already got elected, what are you going to do? Call all of them back and hold special elections in all of Texas? Absolutely fucking not. Because then that would also call into question any legislation that was passed. So it's pretty audacious to me how blatantly corrupt these governors and these legislators are being throughout the country. Meanwhile, people are like, it's about damn time that Trump and the Republicans started doing stuff. Wouldn't want a Democrat leading shit because they're corrupt as shit. They're all a bunch of pedophiles. And it's like, when was the last Democrat arrested for pedophilia and for having child pornography or being a part of a child sex trafficking ring? When was the last Democrat literally arrested for? When? When was the last registered Democrat, or the last transgender person, or the last drag queen arrested for those things? Because every week it seems there's a priest, there's a children's something or another, a cop, a representative, a mayor, a councilman. I think there was a couple cops recently. Like every week, it's somebody that's Republican and in a position of authority and that works with kids. Every single week. And yet, there's so much brainwashing and propaganda in our country that it's a knee-jerk reaction to blame all the ills in America on Democrats, which again is a testament to the stranglehold Republicans have on narrative. Narrative is clearly the most important thing to have. Obviously, Blue MAGA has narrative in their circles. Obviously, I'm not saying that Blue MAGA doesn't have narrative, but they don't have narrative broadly, right? When you listen to people talk about politics, you almost always hear a conservative skew because even Blue MAGA news networks are conservative in context. Yes, they might be left of MAGA, but they are still far to the right in the Overton window. And that's the problem. Which reminds me, I need to find the Overton window link so we can talk about that when that comes up. But suffice to say, the corruption in Texas is egregious, and that was the main point.
This allowed the Democrats to go to other states like California, where Governor Gavin Newsom vowed to pass new congressional maps to neutralize any Republican gains in Texas. During a news conference, I asked Governor Abbott about Newsom's efforts.
It's a joke. He's posturing for the presidency and doing nothing more than that. He's all talk and no action.
It is a small price to pay for America. It is a small price to pay for democracy, and it's worth it. This fight is worth it because Texas is worth it. Our people are worth it. America is worth it. Democracy is worth it. California is doing what Texas should do, and it's give the power to the people. They're letting them vote.
So once the House does establish a quorum, a committee will meet on these new congressional maps, and committees will meet on other legislation. They'll send that to the full House. Republicans are likely to approve all of the legislation. And while there's been all this drama over in the House, the Senate had passed all of its legislation during the first special session, and they will do so again during the second special session.
Yeah, so again, using parliamentary politics, which... how's that democratic? But, whatever. At least the Democrats, or at least, let me rephrase. At least we can use parliamentary politics and actions against the corrupt entities that would wield them for their own corruption, which is, unironically, to undermine democracy in the first place. Which, again, how can you pass laws that undermine the very institutions that give you the power to pass laws in the first place? Again, when people say that the Constitution is flawed, for the most part, I disagree with their arguments because it's usually not good faith. It's like, well, they had the 3/5 compromise. Yes, that was unequivocally bad. Not going to argue that. But having, three branches of government, a checks and balances, the ability to separate powers, and ways to remove people who are abusing said power is exactly what you want. Plus, the Bill of Rights has a lot of good guarantees in it, and it also guarantees the right of the people to do whatever the fuck they need to in order to prevent the states or the federal government from acting a fool. Except that the powers, as we are seeing, if they are united and determined to undermine these checks and balances, not only can, but will. And the fact that they can is the problem. There wasn't an immediate asterisk thrown in there in the bottom that whosoever shall try to undermine the Constitution of the United States and erode the balance of powers through whatever politicking shall be summarily executed, removed from office, and charged with treason and or etc. et alia ad nauseum. The fact that that byline doesn't exist in the Constitution, I agree, huge fucking problem, as we are clearly seeing today. Well, not today, but over the past 10 years, for certain. So, going back to content. This guy's very difficult to hear and very boring to listen to. Oh boy, the Washington Post.
Change its congressional map to favor Republicans.
We are entitled to 5 more seats.
Now, Democrats are threatening to do this.
How is he entitled to 5 more seats? First of all, how is a president entitled to more congressional seats? When executive and legislative. But also, blatant corruption. And collaboration on corruption. Honestly, when I become... President is the next goal, right? But to get there, we're probably going to have to win Congress first. So it's going to be hilarious when I step foot in the Capitol Hill building as a junior congressman from Ohio and just immediately say, hey, based upon the parliamentary rules and politics of this, that, and the other, I am going to invoke my right and authority as a congressman to do X, Y, and Z, namely the Corruption Act, whereby effective immediately everyone who has colluded in undermining and eroding the effectiveness of the Constitution or at the levels of the states, respectively, shall be immediately removed from office, stripped of power, stripped of authority, have all of their assets frozen, and be charged with treason against the United States of America. All in favor? Right, my first day on the congressional floor, I will be arrested. Let me rephrase. They will attempt to arrest me. Whoever the speaker is, and it might still be Johnson, he's going to be like, point of order, you are out of line, Congressman, you need to know your place, you can't do that, you can't say that, and if you don't stop, you're going to be removed. And I'm going to drop the second bill, which is to impeach the shit out of Donald Trump, remove every one of his cabinet members, and charge them with sedition and treason as well. Because the treason part, right? Treason is clearly defined as undermining the Constitution of the United States on behalf of a foreign entity. That is the only definition of treason according to the Constitution, right? Every single one of these fuckers in Congress are beholden to and have voted on behalf of Israel. Every single fucking one of them. To include the cabinet members, to include the president themselves. So, treason actually fucking works as a crime, by the way, as a charge, an actual charge, and it's punishable by death. So, I drop both of those bombs. Start with Congress and the Senate, right, and the states, respectively, and then throw the second bomb, which is impeaching Trump, charging them with treason, as well as the entire cabinet, and having them summarily removed. And then Johnson's going to be like, order, remove this man, arrest him, blah, blah, blah. And it'll give me the opportunity to give a very bold and biblical speech about if you fucking touch me, I will fucking break every goddamn bone in your body and leave your corpse to bleed, broken and bloodied at my feet. But I will not bow, bend, or break because I represent the American people. And that is precisely what I came here to do and what I shall do, whether or not you have the fortitude to do so yourself, being as how you are the direct person this legislation is geared towards. And then, the cop or the I don't even know what they are, Secret Service, I don't even fucking know, the Capitol Police, he's probably going to be this far away from me by the time I finish, and he's going to reach out and he's like, you know what, I'm going to think twice about this. And then I said arrest him, you can't say this shit. And I'm going to look at the guy and I'm like, go right ahead, arrest me, but it will be the last thing you do. Like, that'll be my first fucking day in office. I, Samuel Ronan, swear to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and defend her against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, so help me God. And swear, and I think it's, I bear true faith unto the same, so help me God. I just swear. Probably, right? Whatever the oath is, it's got to be similar to the oath of enlistment. It's got to be a little bit different because it's Congress, but it's essentially the oath of enlistment, right? I don't really, semantics, right? And then whenever we have our next session, because it's not the same day that you get it sworn in, pretty certain it isn't the same day. If it is, let's go. I'm pretty certain it isn't. I think it's like the next day where you have your first day of business. And I will drop 2 atomic bombs. Instead of on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, it's going to be on the Speaker of the House's fucking forehead and chin. So, that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's our immediate mission, is to get elected into Congress in Ohio. Not to say that this isn't relevant, or that we would even change. I don't think we're going to change it. I think we're going to still stick to that, the 48th president. But we just might have to start off a little bit smaller and become a congressman first. But all of which is to say, this fucking clown.
But with fewer options.
If they do move forward, California will not sit by idly.
I'm exploring with our leaders every option to redraw our state congressional lines as soon as possible.
Here in the state of Illinois, it is possible to redistrict.
Democrats have unified control in 15 states, meaning they control both the legislature and the governorship, compared to 23 states with unified Republican control. There are also fewer House seats held by the opposing party in states that Democrats control, meaning there are potentially fewer opportunities for Democrats in these states to create new safe seats. There are also legal hurdles. California and New York are likely the biggest pickup opportunities for Democrats, but in both states, voters would have to approve a constitutional amendment, giving the legislature the authority to bypass a state redistricting commission. And while California's new map could take effect before the 2026 midterm elections, New York's new map couldn't go into effect until the 2028 elections. Redrawing congressional districts in the middle of a decade and without a court order is rare. It has been attempted.
Exactly! So I was right. You can only redistrict during the census. Why are we having this conversation?
By Republicans just 4 times this century, including by Texas Republicans back in 2003. And similar to today, Texas Democrats at the time left the state to prevent a vote, only for the new map to eventually pass when the walkout ended. Texas has until the end of the year to pass new congressional districts in time for the 2026 midterm elections. And since 2000, no state legislative walkout has lasted longer than 43 days.
I mean, yes. I guess I shouldn't have taken a bite while I was trying to talk. What I was trying to say is that there's clearly a history of Republicans trying to do this. And it happened 4 times in this century. This century is 25 years young, which means on average every 6 years the Republicans try to pull this bullshit, which isn't okay, considering they had 3 chances in this century to change the districts to their favor regardless. So they took an additional 4, which would make it 7, which means an average of 1 in 3 years, or every 3 years, Jesus. An average of every 3 years, the Republicans try to redraw the maps, which, again, not legal, for one, just straight up not legal, and for 2, is indicative of their own failure to lead and to inspire the people to vote and support them. It's just insane. It's just insane to me, the lengths the Republican Party will go to, the elected officials within the Republican Party, to literally undermine any hint of law while then lambasting Democrats for being lawless or threats to, American democracy, patriotism, and the American way, when they are literally the ones doing the erosion themselves. But, okay, hold on. Good. I've actually been doing good with pacing myself. So these, I think we're going to do that one last. Sandwich Slinger, let's fucking go.
For the Sandwich Slinger. Hello everybody, David Schuster here. A judge has now agreed that felony charges are not warranted in the case of...
And yes, this is a burger.
Recently in Washington, D.C., the 37-year-old started yelling at federal law enforcement officers and then went even further to the expletive-filled delight of onlookers.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
He cooked him! He cooked him! Police eventually caught Dunn, arrested him, and took him to D.C. Superior Court, where he was released. 2 days later...
Imagine... Oh, hold on, I guess we have to...
Police eventually caught Dunn, arrested him.
Imagine wearing that outfit and throwing a sandwich against paramilitary troops And then that paramilitary troop being so fucking butthurt about it that they chased a man down wearing that outfit like they were a goddamn terrorist. That's crazy.
Him and took him to D.C. Superior Court where he was released.
You beat me to it, Anna.
The Trump Justice Department charged Dunn with a felony. But back in court, Dunn got his freedom again. Headline: Sean Dunn, accused of throwing a sandwich at a federal officer, is released on his own recognizance as the judge finds the felony charge excessive. Quote, a judge released 37-year-old Sean Dunn, a former Department of Justice employee, on his own recognizance despite prosecutors pushing for serious felony charges that could carry up to 8 years in prison. The judge's finding is a loss for the Trump Justice Department and its D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. She had gloated about Dunn's arrest.
An individual went up to one of the federal law enforcement.
Yeah, and okay, so, and then it's always this whole, Republicans are like, we're the law and order party. If you break the law, we're going to come after you. The same people are like, they threw a sandwich at me. You will be put to death. You're a terrorist. You're going to slaughter animals and eat babies. And it's like, y'all have lost your fucking minds. Y'all just want to punish dissent. Getting hit it with a sandwich is fucking hilarious. It should be considered peaceful. You threw a sandwich, not a brick. If a sandwich can hurt... Aren't there TikTok videos of people hitting each other with a tortilla and throwing pies at each other and God knows what other foods, like straight up lasagna? Lasagna would be more dangerous because that shit could be hot. But a sandwich? If you got hit in the head with a full-on Philly steak and cheese sandwich that got toasted, maybe, I could see that being a little dangerous. But at worst, like, you mean to tell me these fucking paramilitary sociopaths haven't pissed off their girlfriend and had something thrown at them that was probably a hot dish? And you mean to tell me that same scenario threatened your life because it was some guy dressed up as a frat boy? I can't take that shit seriously. And he's a former DOJ employee, right? So, I mean, the resistance wears pink shirts and short shorts. My mom threw a pot of hot caramel at my uncle. That's dangerous. Exactly! Throwing the fucking fries in the grease at somebody. I could see that being considered a threat. But a sandwich? I mean, it makes me want to get a Frank's hot dog and a big-ass bun, throw some ketchup and mustard on it, and say, have a taste of my wiener. Like, y'all are fucking kidding me here. Right, and then they charge you with anything and everything for taking pictures. I got charged with a felony for resisting arrest, and I wasn't doing anything. I was literally video recording the cop, and telling him, what am I even being charged for? Why did you pull me over? I have no idea what you're doing here. And he's like, well, we're long past that. It's like, no, motherfucker, that's your goddamn job. But I lived in an extremely conservative county in Ohio at the time, and I would have lost my jury trial because, again, bootlicking Blue Lives Matter bullshit. So, again, the criminal justice system in our country is so deeply broken that a white male veteran can't even avoid getting the book thrown at him when he was clearly a victim of police brutality. Do you see where I'm going with it? I am at the pinnacle of privilege in this country, and I would have gone to literal prison. Like, that's the rub. So, it's insane, and things are only getting worse. Well, I'll leave it at that.
Officers and started jumping up and down, screaming at him.
Why does the CC suck on this video?
A Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony.
So wait, this lady literally talked about a sandwich this big, threw it at him, said it was funny, literally explaining how it was a comical act of resistance, and with a straight face, well, I wouldn't call that a straight face. I would call that a silly face for sure. Is saying, we're going to charge you with a felony. Who's laughing now? Isn't this lady like a reality's personality show person? Like, she's not even a real fucking judge. What is up with this? Yeah, I don't understand how resisting arrest can be the only charge, right? I only resisted arrest because you didn't tell me what I was being arrested for, which makes your arresting me illegal because you have to have a legal reason to arrest someone. Or so I thought, because of this stupid, crazy thing called due process, which is, I guess, the 4th Amendment and also the 14th Amendment. Silly me for knowing my fucking rights, I guess. And you're welcome for my continued service of activism. Although I guess I was still in the reserves back then.
Assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt.
Yeah, backing the police to the hilt is going to backfire when you become a target of the police. Let's be very clear about that. In every single fascist regime, the regime turns against its own party members due to loyalty or whatever other nonsense they can come up with. Like, giving autocrats power and authority, and especially the militarized police forces power and authority in the autocratic system, ends up turning the autocratic system into a police-ran, military, autocratic government. Meaning, had the Nazis actually lasted past World War II... Jesus. Had the Nazis lasted past World War II, Hitler would have been deposed regardless. And then the head of the SS would have ended up becoming the president or the Führer or whatever the fuck they called themselves at the time. And that guy would have been in charge of both the SS and the military. And what do you think happens then? You have elections? No. That motherfucker starts murdering everyone that's a threat to him. And only allows loyalists to move up the chain of command. But now you're turning into a zealot nation state. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Back it up. What happened in communist Russia? Okay? The USSR fell apart because it became more militarized. And the more militarized it became, the more paranoid the citizenry became and started turning on each other. Which does not breed prosperity in any sense of the word. To the point where now you have Vladimir, sure, past the USSR era, who was prior KGB, i.e. an assassin and spy, who then worked his way up into politics and now controls the military, became president, got termed out, and then controlled the country from a different position because he still controlled and dominated the military. And what does Russia still have today? Right? Yeah, you can say it's democratic, you can say there's capitalism, this, that, and the other, but you still have an autocratic dictator with military force. And that's the problem. That's how all this shit always devolves. Always. So, giving the police extra constitutional powers to arrest and to harass and to charge with impunity can and will result in them turning against the party darlings. It can and it will. And it always does. Always. Russia just happened to be a really good example. It happened in China. It happened in apartheid South Africa. It happened in every military dictatorship in Africa and Latin America. And quite fucking frankly, it happened here in the United States. It was happening, and then it went from military leaders to more politicians and bankrollers, but it's still the same mafia tactics. Once the bankers become in charge, it's only going to be the rich and the powerful that get to have a voice anymore, and guess what's happening? Everyone is expendable except for the 813 billionaires in this country. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that? So, fine, not a military takeover, not a militarization, but that will eventually become the case. It'll be, mannequined from on high by the 813 billionaires, But when you have a military dictatorship, like, they can and will turn against the billionaires once they have served their purpose. So we're heading towards a military dictatorship that is starting out to be led by the billionaires until that military dictatorship turns against them and everyone else. Anyway. It makes no sense. I've only served in the Facebook meme wars. Yeah, and you paid the ultimate price on like 11 of your accounts with that. The difference is that under capitalism, now the dictator is also backed by the oligarchs and billionaires. Apparently, we now have 902 billion. Where the fuck did we get another what? 813, 902. It would be what, 99 billionaires? Is that math right? No, it's 89 billionaires. Where the fuck did we get another 89 billionaires? Because that would have to have been this year. Because that 813 was as of January of this year. Jesus fucking Christ. Well, the 902. Well, no. I don't know how we're gonna. Okay, then we need to come up with a better catchphrase involving billionaires, I guess. I think that's enough of this video. I think.
Get off her head! Get off me! Get off your knees! Get off me! Get it off!
Oh, so we're still kneeling on people's necks.
Los Angeles, that is Amanda Trebach, a nurse and U.S. citizen who was observing ICE agents near their staging area.
Get off me! This is public property, sir!
ICE says Trebach threatened agents with a protest sign.
ICE beating her up, they got her knee on her head. I am where I need to be, 10 feet, so...
You guys get her in the van?
Yeah, lady, first of all, I don't see very many people with the lady that's doing the video recording. She's in extreme danger right now. Yeah, and again, the woman being arrested, being treated that way is not okay regardless, but like, people need to start unarresting these folks, and we need to start traveling in significantly higher numbers to facilitate that.
Yeah, my keys are in there.
Get back.
And look, these pieces of shit are hiding their faces.
You're brown, man. You should be ashamed of your mother self. You guys are on the wrong side of history. You're going to be in history books. Are they hurting you?
Federal agents in that unmarked van took the nurse to a detention facility and said she would be charged with impeding and obstructing federal law enforcement. But soon after the arrest video went viral on social media, all of the charges were dropped. Apparently the video contradicted what ICE agents had told prosecutors.
Yeah, imagine that. And that's what I'm saying. You can't just unilaterally give these paramilitary, parapolice force just all this power and authority to arrest people with impunity. Like, that's why lawful orders and lawful arrests and due process is so important, so that shit doesn't happen. It's a good thing that these prosecutors and judges are actually doing their jobs when presented with, well, oh, we're not going to charge this piece of shit. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not going to charge this person because of these pieces of shit. Like, that is the due process part working. That is the criminal justice system working. But the fact that this woman was thrown to the ground and had her neck kneeled on by a grown-ass man is not changing. Like, that part remains still the case. That her rights were violated. Her freedom was violated. She was threatened and assaulted, and those motherfuckers are going to get away with it. So where's the justice? Well, they were just doing their jobs and they did it wrong. No! By doing your job wrong, which is enforcing the law, and the law itself being unconstitutional, you are in fact committing a crime against humanity. Ergo, you need to be in prison. So why the fuck is that not the movement that is picking up steam? Why is that not the narrative that is being shared across social media and in the news? Like, what's happening is, as you said, kidnapping and trafficking. It's assault on citizens. Period. Dot. End of story. By abusers and bullies with badges and apparently way too much aggression and way too small a dicks for their own damn good. I'm getting amped up, but we're not quite amped up enough yet. That's fucked up, though.
Going to give you a live look right now at Austin this morning, where the second special session could bring new congressional maps and other items on the governor's agenda.
This is after Democrats ended their standoff and returned to Austin, allowing a vote to move forward.
Yes, so the big question, what...
So that's the thing, too, like, they could have literally just not came back to Texas until the Republicans either A, stopped trying to push the issue, or B, until January 1st, 2026. Like, how fucking cowardly do you have to be to only leave for like a few days or a week or 2 weeks? Like, the record was 43 days. Okay, these are unconstitutional and unprecedented times and activities being engaged upon by the Texas legislature. And you say you are on the side of justice and the law. So, stay the fuck away. And then control the narrative. Like, get on social media. Do your touring of news networks and all this, that, and the other in surrounding states. Go on the Ellen DeGeneres show or the Kelly Clarkson show or something. And be like, no, as a Democrat from Texas, I am going to avoid Texas until the new year if that's what it takes, because what's happening in Texas is unconstitutional, is against Texans, is against the American way, it's against justice and democracy. Like, you would become a sensation overnight. But these Democrats are so feckless they can't even stand their ground when it literally is the difference between fascism and not fascism. Again, none of this has to be happening. None of this has to be happening. Absolutely none of this is preventable or not preventable. None of this is impossible to prevent. Every bit of this is preventable, and it takes having a spine to do it. And the fact that that's not what's happening is insane. Yes, Stephen Colbert would have had them on. Not that we could watch Stephen Colbert, but, you know.
New maps mean for North Texas voters, and Natalie Haddad, she's been following this from the start, ever since they left the state. Natalie, how soon could these maps land on the governor's desk?
You know, sure enough, Texas's new congressional maps could be revealed and passed as soon as this weekend. And now that House Democrats are back...
Jesus fucking Christ! This weekend? This was from 13 hours ago, which means today, this morning. 7 a.m. Then this weekend, which would be the 23rd of August? Like, why even go through the motions of leaving Texas if you're just going to give it to them by the fucking weekend?
Moving quickly on redistricting, but Democrats are still fighting against it. Now, this push comes after President Trump asked Texas lawmakers to draw new maps, adding 5 GOP seats in the U.S.
That gavel is ridiculous. That looks like a toy that was painted to look like wood. That you can't tell me that's the actual dimensions of a fucking gavel.
Some of those seats here in North Texas. Now, earlier this month, Democrats left the state to block this effort, but after 2 weeks, the end of the first special...
2 weeks! They couldn't last more than 2 weeks? Fucking cowards. Fuck you.
Session and promises from other states to redistrict and cancel out Texas's new seats, they returned. But not all are playing along. Representative Aisha Davis of Dallas is back in Texas, but this announcement that she released yesterday says she's not going back to the Capitol. She's going to continue her protest. And Representative Nicole Collier from Fort Worth, she's been inside the House chamber since yesterday and still is right now. Take a look. When Democrats returned, they were asked to sign an agreement allowing DPS troopers to escort and track them during this special session. Collier refused to sign, which is why she has not been allowed to leave the chamber. This live video you're seeing right
again,
now.
how the fuck can any authority, any legislative body refuse to allow their equal, their literal equal to leave unless they sign a document surrendering to the slave patrol? I'm sorry, from DPS. How is that even legal? How is that even possible? How do you just be like, you can't leave unless you sign this paper? Motherfucker, this is Texas. And now we're getting a little amped up. Last I checked, I can leave if I fucking want to, buddy. I might be a 5'7", 100-pound black woman, but I got places to go. Which brings us, finally, to the other change I made. Rebel flag. And notice the symbol there? Although I guess it is pretty well covered by chat. Oh, it's still covered by chat. And I don't have a Control 7 button. Anyway, rebellion, resisting, and apparently whatever that green dot is. Look, it moves. It's the aliens! They're watching. So, my point in all this is saying that, I wish a motherfucker would. Yeah, I think it's time. I always get confused on how to put this thing on. Because I also don't know which way's the inside out. Alright. So, what was that lady's name, by the way? Nicole Collier from Texas. There's a pretty simple solution that'll allow you to leave. Dare I say it. And being from Texas, I'm literally surprised they all don't fucking carry. Everybody carries in Texas. I'd carry in Texas. This thing is confusing as shit, okay? It loses my... I don't know, but I'm not going to say that this woman weighs a lot. Like, that would be extremely fucking rude. Yeah, look at her. She's probably 5'7". She seems like she's a healthy and fit woman. Maybe 115, 120. What's a fit and healthy weight for a woman? I don't want to say like 150 pounds. I know women who are 150 pounds and are extremely fit, but I'm not. I'm a rebel. I'm not suicidal, okay? Leia weighs 130? Damn. Okay. And she's about your size. Like, height-wise. Huh. Okay, so I have bad guesstimation of weight. But then again, I don't look like I weigh 215 either. Especially when I, now it's 215. 180? 215. 180? 215. But anyway. Plus, as a woman, don't most women carry, like, pepper spray or something along those lines anyway, with them? Just in case, because men are psychopaths, right? So, if I were her, I'd be like, oh, you're not going to let me leave unless I sign this paper? Shh. Now, once you get done screaming and crying like a little fucking bitch, you can get the fuck out of my goddamn way. And if you try and do this bullshit again, I'll come back with something a little hotter and a little fucking faster. Click, clack. Motherfucker. So, all of which is to say, let me also do a real quick settings here so I can get my keybinds to work. Hotkeys. Oh. All right, let's make sure that this works. Perfect. Okay.
Right now, take a look. When Democrats returned, they were asked to sign an agreement allowing DPS troopers to escort and track them.
Department of Protective Services? What's DPS even stand for?
To sign, which is why she has not been allowed to leave the chamber. This live video you're seeing right now, this is the first movement we've actually seen in several hours. She was sleeping in one of those seats. She ultimately did not stay the night alone. I think the person we're seeing on the screen right there is Representative Jean Wu out of Houston, the top Democrat in the House of Representatives here in the state. Now, for those wondering, no, keeping her in the House chamber isn't illegal. It's actually allowed under House rules. When there's a call.
What? What?
On the House, all members must be present, and the Speaker can even lock the doors. So since Representative Collier isn't being held against her will, she can sign an agreement to be escorted. She cannot leave the chamber without against her will. Speaker can even lock the doors. So since Representative Democrat in the House of Representatives here in the state. Now, for those wondering, no, keeping her in the House chamber isn't illegal. It's actually allowed under House rules. When there's a call on the House, all members must be present, and the Speaker can even lock the doors. So since Representative Collier isn't being held against her will, she can sign an agreement to be escorted. She cannot leave the chamber without a DPS trooper escort.
Okay. So, for the sake of argument, the Speaker of the House can do whatever they want, I guess. Whatever. All right, fine. Let's not address that for a second. Let's just address the fact that they could lock the door or have people sign. So wouldn't the rules have to apply to everyone equally? So does that mean the Republicans had to sign the document saying that they'll be escorted by DPS troopers? Granted, I'm sure they would have signed it regardless, but isn't that discriminatory? Isn't that literally political discrimination and targeting? For one. For two, if he could have locked the doors, he should have just locked the doors. Called it a day. Kept everybody in there. That would have proved a fucking point. Nobody's going nowhere. I'm not going nowhere. Jimmy's not going anywhere. And y'all aren't going nowhere. Yeehaw, motherfucker. But that also didn't happen. So, basically, the Democrats, who showed up after 2 weeks of being gone, fucked themselves, and now have a DPS escort, which, if they try and flee the state, they'll just get rammed and arrested by again, how is that even a democratic process? I am going to leave because I have the freedom of travel and movement. I have left the chamber, therefore the rule of the call or whatever no longer fucking applies. Also, none of that makes any sort of sense. It's legal, okay, but it can be applied arbitrarily to whoever they fucking want. Wouldn't that undermine the legality of it? And also, I wish a motherfucker would. So, is it not going to, because I'm in that, never mind. Got my buttons confused. Rate your ads.
Speaker announced, once quorum was restored, that the call of the House would remain, and any member that was out because of the quorum break would be required to sign a permission slip agreeing to be under the authority of DPS in order to leave the Capitol. I refused. I refused to sign the permission slip to be able to leave the Capitol. I disagree with that authoritarian tactic that they have
correct
taken. As being part of the minority party, we don't have a lot of victories, but we do have our principles. We still have our dignity.
So I'm going to stop you right there for a quick, just a tiny teensy. Principles and dignity? Y'all couldn't stay the fuck out of Texas for 2 goddamn weeks. 2 weeks! Listen, I'm not saying you had to set fire to the Capitol, and I didn't. Although I would take up arms and be like, "Say hello to my little friend, motherfucker." I'm not asking you to do that, right? Not everybody is as unhinged as I am, which is fair. That's fine. Not everybody needs to be. I need to be unhinged because I am going to fight for this country by any means necessary, and I will be a villain if necessary. That's just who I am. That said, you're going to talk about principles and dignity? You couldn't even stay away. All you had to do was go on vacation. You could have gone to the fucking Bahamas. You could have followed your Lord and Savior Ted Cruz to the fucking Bahamas. Y'all could have been at home doing this. Y'all could have been at home doing this. Y'all could have even been going to the bars doing this. But instead, you fucking cowards couldn't spend more than 2 weeks outside Texas before your spine started to crumble and you went crawling into the house, the building, and was like, "Sorry, massa, we just wanted to show us that we had some fortitude so that you'd stop whipping us, massa." Like, fuck you, Texas, Democrats especially, and I know what I just did, and I stand by that, because that is a level of cowardice that is only seen by slaves who are afraid of their master's whip. And I am calling the Democrats slaves to their Republican masters, especially in Texas, and then they're afraid of the whip more than they are of the people. Or of losing democracy, for that fucking matter. And yes, I have a huge fucking problem with that. Huge. So.
And we still have the right to protest and resist. I will have to stay here.
Ma'am. In the context of you are a highfalutin ranking woman, ma'am, protest and resist by not staying away for 2 weeks and then throwing a... Don't get me wrong, you are absolutely doing the right thing now that you're there, but you didn't have to be there to put yourself in this situation in the first place. You could have simply not. But you did, and now you have to protest and resist by sleeping in those god-awful looking chairs. She sounds like she's talking about going to the pharmacy and having an issue with her prescription. Right. Again, I'm not saying violent resistance against an officer would have gone well for her or the other guy that's there. I'm just saying, like, you want to know how you stop fascism in its tracks? It's not by rolling over and showing your asshole. It's not that. That's all I'm saying.
I hadn't really given much thought. What matters to me is making sure that I resist and fight back against and push back. I'm sure I'll fall asleep eventually, whether that's in my chair or on the floor. I'm sure I will get some rest, but I'm so appreciative of my Democratic colleagues because they've been bringing me refreshments and encouraging me. In fact, I've asked the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, and he has joined me in a sign of unity and to resist this power, authority, control over us and what we're trying to do.
And you're absolutely right, Anna. She's also helping them by having their quorum by staying there, which is the whole point of preventing her from leaving in the first place, and by being escorted by the police. So if they refuse to come, the police can, kick down their door and drag them kicking and screaming? Like, that's literally the next step, right? Is that not? So the cops are there in front of their house, presumably blocking a driveway, and then if the day comes for the vote, and they refuse to leave their house, they have warrants, active warrants from a legislative branch to violate their privacy and due process, invade their homes, and drag them out of their... Again, only the judicial branch can issue an arrest warrant. I think there are certain warrants that the legislative branch can issue, but they're not arrest warrants. There's some sort of other warrant, like a warrant to show up or something like that, right? That light is bothering me. What the fuck? Where's that even coming from? That was not a problem. Did I bump something? I guess that's just gonna have to bother me. So I don't know. I can't fix it right now. Subpoena. Okay, that's what it is. Right. Anyway, all I'm saying... I'll just block it like that. Wait, I'll just block it like this. All I'm saying is... I can't. Whatever. All I'm saying is, like... None of that, even the solution to the problem, which is being escorted by police, seems ethical or legal in the slightest, and seems to violate more laws than it aims to protect. And that, to me, is the bigger issue here. Oh, good grief. Speaking of actual kidnapping...
DemocracyNow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We go now to ICU nurse. At the time of her arrest, Amanda was participating in a peace patrol outside Terminal Island, a Coast Guard base used by ICE and Customs and Border Protection as a hub for operations in California. Dozens of volunteers have routinely stationed themselves outside Terminal Island to monitor the movement of the federal vehicles streaming in and out of the staging area. Terminal Island was once a thriving Japanese-American fishing village that was demolished during World War II with its residents forcibly...
imagine that. Imagine that American concentration camps is the history of where an ICE facility is at now. Imagine that.
Internment camps. Footage of Amanda Trebach's arrest shows two plainclothes, masked agents...
Oh, that was this lady.
Against the pavement as they kneel on her back and head to handcuff her. One of the agents, seen putting his knee on Trebach's head for a brief moment as a person recording yells, "Get off her head."
Filming you. Get off her head! Get off me! Get off your knee! Get off her head! Get it off!
Get back, get back.
Get off her head!
Hasn't that been determined that that's an illegal and unsafe method of arresting and restraining somebody ever since, George Floyd was murdered by that? So the fact that he is on camera doing that and he's not arrested is a fucking problem.
She was forced into an unmarked black van by at least half a dozen unidentified agents. Her release from federal custody came amidst pressure from activists, community protests, and the National Nurses United Union. Amanda Trebach is joining us now. Welcome to Democracy Now! Amanda, I'm glad you're out. We spoke to your colleague, Ron Goches, to describe what happened to you before you were speaking.
I'm sorry. This is just the way my brain works. She looks like the actress who was in The Walking Dead, who was the weird lady in the car parts yard, but was also like a soldier for the CRM. She looks just like that actress.
Can you explain exactly why you were there, what you were intending?
And honestly, a bit more badass, given that she has been actively doing what do you call it? Like direct action against ICE and got arrested for it and nearly killed for it. Like that's braver than just being a crazy person in the apocalypse. Yes, the trash people. Exactly.
Do as a peace patrol, warning people about the ICE agents and what they did to you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on this morning, Amy. I really appreciate the opportunity. So myself and many other people and groups have been at Terminal Island, which, as you had mentioned, is near the port of LA in San Pedro, near Long Beach, California. We've been there legally monitoring the activity of ICE on and comings and goings off the island, and alerting the community, specifically the Harbor Area Peace Patrols has been wonderful. And alerting the community not only of the vehicles to look out for so they can feel safer, but also what areas are safe in and around the neighborhood where ICE is not, so people can go to the park, they can go to the grocery store and feel as though they're not going to be taken and kidnapped.
Which again is the whole point of what ICE is doing, is terrorizing 1/5 of the population of America by focusing on where that 1/5 predominantly lives, i.e. Latino communities. And the fact that that is ongoing and that the majority of white Americans are like, good, keep those illegals out, instead of this is fucking terrorism, is a goddamn problem. Now, I get that the polling might be less in favor now than it was before, but it's clearly not enough to have people in the streets rioting. Certainly not here in Ohio. Like, my job that I go to, I haven't seen anybody skip work. I haven't seen anybody miss a single day to protest this shit. And most of the people that I personally work with support it. It's a good thing those illegals are finally getting kicked out. It's a good thing that Trump is patrolling our streets. Like, these are people I work with every single day saying this shit. In Columbus, Ohio, which is a culturally diverse city. So, even in a culturally diverse city, in a part of the city that is actually Latino dominated, or I don't know about dominated, but there is a significant Latino population in this part of the city, and they are still saying these things. So, people say that you tend to be less racist and discriminatory if you're surrounded by culture and diversity, and that may very well be true in most cases, but when the propaganda seeps in and turns us versus them on its head, all of that cultural diversity that you have built, all of that, I don't want to say tolerance, I don't know, interaction, all of that interconnectedness can start to be eroded because your cultural identity differs from their cultural identity, but theirs is being portrayed as other, as a threat to your cultural identity. And you will see the divide begin to grow where there wasn't one to begin with. And that's the fucking problem. And to your point, Anna, yes, she was kidnapped and trafficked. I work with a Trump supporter that is married to a Latino immigrant. It's unreal. Which is unreal. Which is very so unreal. I've ended friendships that were decades old, and one of them was married to a Chinese immigrant and was talking about get rid of the illegals, get rid of immigrants, make them come legally, this, that, and the other. And I just looked at his wife. And I'm like, you're going to let him talk about you like this? Not that she was here illegally, but as we have seen, once all the illegal criminals are taken care of, all of the lawful, law-abiding citizens are next. And I said as much. And she's like, well, I love him. He's my husband. And I was like, well, you can deal with that. I'm not. I see posts about ICE raiding buildings in my neighborhood multiple times a week. I live in a very blue city, and many of the comments from white people are still super nasty and racist. I blocked so many people because of that. And to your point, you do live in one of the most liberal cities in one of the most liberal states, and people do immediately still turn on the group that is being othered because propaganda works. They wouldn't use propaganda if it didn't fucking work. Which is why they use propaganda. Because it works. And it's stupid why it works. All you have to do is browbeat a population for 60 days, and they will believe you. And it'll be that much more difficult to prevent the truth, even if it's presented to them, if it contradicts that propaganda. It takes effort to go against the propaganda. Or you have to be autistic. I don't fucking know. One of the two. Effort or being autistic are on the spectrum, right? But that's the other problem. 80% of the population is neurotypical, which means what exactly? 80% of the population seems to be susceptible to propaganda of either denomination, and it's the remaining 20% that are resisting it and presumably doing things like what we're doing, running for office, spreading the message, trying to get people to work together, trying to avoid the nonsense. But you're dealing with an overwhelming majority of the population, regardless of demographic, who is susceptible to propaganda. So not only are you trying to head off the propaganda, you're also trying to deprogram those who have been manipulated. And that's the fucking problem. That's the problem we face. Sorry, I need a little drinky drink. Also, do you like the flag? Notice the rebel symbol, right? Peace, aggression, and working together. But then these words, that liberty is indivisible and that political freedom cannot long exist without economic freedom, empowering education, and a high quality of life. These are known as the Ronan Statement. This is the official unifying statement of the Ronan campaign to unite the entire American working class under a common cause, achievable goals, and fundamental truths, which can be found on the website. I couldn't put all 13 statements because of the way that it was. Either the text would have been too tiny, which obviously would make it illegible, or it was just too much of a block, and then it made the lines not work very well. But I figure if we're gonna have a rebel flag, a standing united, the fist, the Black Panther fist, the peace sign. No, I guess that was actually meant with the left hand. So the Black Panther fist, and then the open hand of working together. May as well have a few words to go along with it. Let's see. That's why the Democrats should have gone with the opposite narrative, but instead they tried to out-Trump on immigration by also demonizing immigrants. Exactly. Which is why we are actively doing all this nonsense. The resisting. The fighting back. Talking about liberty and unification in every opportunity that we get. Because that is the right way. And Ronanism is the right way. All right.
So what we've also been doing is we've seen these vehicles at Terminal Island, almost every single one of them out in the LA area. It's small and large raids across the area. We can directly connect them back to Terminal Island and living in our communities, staying in our communities in Long Beach. So we're also connecting license plates. These vehicles are either, they have license plates that are not
we might skip the rest of this video, but this doesn't look nearly as rebellious, even with the rifle, as the cigar. What's up with that? Is pipe smoking just not rebellion? But why is smoking a cigar like that? Is it because of Che Guevara and Fidel? Is it because a lot of resistance leaders do smoke cigars instead of pipes? Is that what it is? Oh well. Okay. So basically, she was a frontline activist monitoring the activities of ICE, and then they got fed up with it, and then, brutally attacked and then kidnapped her. Oh, here's some good news.
I got a text at 2 a.m.
And
from
of
someone
it's an angel number, a 111. This has to be something we have to rely on. Wow, it's almost as if marketing is trying to manipulate people. Cigars are also indigenous to the Taino. Okay. I can respect that culture. So not only is it revolutionary because of the people who use them, but it's also respecting the indigenous who have been victims of colonization and white supremacy for half a millennium.
Today we learned about a settlement involving Denver-based Dominion Voting Systems. Conservative network Newsmax will pay $67 million to settle a lawsuit from Dominion Voting Systems. The network is accused of defaming Dominion in the weeks after President Donald Trump's 2020 election loss. A lawsuit said Newsmax spread false claims that Dominion manipulated voting technology in President Biden's favor. Newsmax will pay the $67 million in installments through 2027. In 2023, Fox News Channel paid $787.5 million to Dominion to settle a similar lawsuit.
So, does that mean Fox also had to pay a $700 million lawsuit so that they couldn't claim to be a news network? And then they paid another $787 million due to defamation. They've paid over $1.4 billion for fraud. So that just goes to show how valuable propaganda is if it can take a $1.4 billion hit and not change a goddamn thing about itself. That's fucking wild. That is very fucking wild. That is insane. That is beyond wild. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, Newsmax. Newsmax accused the Dominion voting machines for changing votes in favor of Biden. But if Democrats, and there's that long video that we're going to get to towards the end here, that are accusing whatever voting machine company that was in charge in the swing states for changing it to Trump, and not a peep, not a single lawsuit filed, like nothing. So Newsmax defames a company and loses to claim that Biden rigged the election. Trump openly says Musk rigged the election for him, and nothing. Seems a little suspicious. To me. Anyway. Guess we'll find out more as the days and weeks go on. Are we close to the bottom? Alright, let's do... Fuck. I guess I started taking too long, and now we're actually catching up to the bottom here. This is probably going to be a fairly comprehensive video.
Residents of Washington, D.C. and the surrounding region are still adapting to life under federal control after the president...
All right, nope, we're already done. 6 seconds into it. Federal control? Bro. All you need to say is martial law. Several days into martial law. That's what federal takeover means. Martial law. That is the actual definition of the federal What the fuck?
D.C. and the surrounding region are still adapting to life under federal control.
Under federal control. That was the verbiage he used. Do you know what federal control is? When it's by the goddamn military? Martial law. This fucking guy.
The president seized authority over the city's police force and deployed...
Martial law!
Nearly 400 people have been arrested in the capital since the
martial law.
Week. And today, Mississippi and Louisiana joined a number of other Republican-led states in sending hundreds more troops to the nation's capital. And
literally martial law.
The team has fanned out across the city to hear how daily life has changed and what residents make of the president's move.
Under martial law.
Hundreds of National Guard troops are now stationed around parts
who are violating posse comitatus.
Iconic landmarks. Nightly checkpoints have become routine in some areas of the city.
Which is martial law!
As have protests against the increased security presence.
We don't have the sort of crime problem that President Trump is describing. People do feel safe.
Correct.
D.C. residents, like retired George Washington University professor Jeff Levy, joined a recent protest in front of the Metropolitan Police headquarters.
What the rest of the country needs to understand is while they have more legal basis for doing it in D.C., this is their goal across the country.
There is no legal basis for doing it in D.C. because there's no legal basis anywhere in the country other than during times of invasion. That is the only time the country is allowed to institute martial law, is if we are invaded. And whatever imaginary crimes are happening in the country do not count. I hate to break it. I don't hate to. That's the facts. Don't they have lots more crime in many Louisiana? And that's the point. Red states have significantly higher crime per capita than any blue state. Any blue state. It's insane. Why are they sending anything to fight crime in D.C.? Again, it's martial law. They're not fighting crime. It's not even a good excuse. You're sending troops. You're implementing curfews. It's martial law, and they refuse to say it.
This Alexandria, Virginia native who asked us not to use her name also joined the demonstrations.
They're trying to make it less and less safe and make you more and more scared. So I hope people will just stand up and
to the martial law.
Because most people do not want this.
Correct. Most people do not want martial law.
Just arrived in Washington, D.C. from Florida as Josiah prepares to begin college at American University.
From what I've seen so far, D.C. has been one of the safest places I've been. There is not one hint of some sort of crime epidemic.
Yeah, and that poor motherfucker is probably going to get targeted by ICE because he's brown. So, dude, I don't know what you're doing, but, that ain't it. And that's the problem. All of this activity, martial law, is to terrorize Americans, but specifically brown people. And then eventually black people, and then eventually every other demographic, until you get to the white folk, and then it's dissenters. And then at that point you have a fully militarized autocracy, and it's too goddamn late. The real crime in D.C. happens on Capitol Hill. Having the military in the streets is making D.C. way less safe. Right, because again, I was never trained in civilian interaction when I was active duty. I was trained in get civilians away from our assets, politely and professionally, and to kill them or detain them if the use of force escalated accordingly. So, no. And plus, it's a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, which is to say the military being used for police action is illegal. It's illegal, and it's been illegal for 150 years.
One of the first stops for the mother and son was the National Mall, where National Guard troops were on patrol, even stopping for photos with tourists.
The National Guard is walking by, so these are the first officers that we do see. I was expecting them to be all over the place, and I guess little by little they are coming through everywhere. To
this
me,
is literally
sad because
this is the kind of shit you refuse to obey. These right here, these orders are the orders you disobey. Those are and if your commander is like, all right, well, now you're under arrest for disobeying the orders, it's like, no, motherfucker, Posse Comitatus Act. We are not allowed. We are literally not allowed. So the commanders, all the way up to the top, and every single enlisted person who obeyed those orders are guilty of violating federal law, violating the Constitution, guilty of violating military law, and should be dishonorably discharged immediately and or charged accordingly, to include heavy labor in prison. Because no part of that is okay. No part of it. Not a single solitary aspect of them marching in the streets of anywhere is justified. And the fact that the Ohio National Guard and several other states are sending guardsmen to D.C. to violate the law and people's constitutional rights is insane. And the fact that those people are agreeing to commit these crimes, my first day in Congress is going to be amazing. Because maybe I don't threaten Congress the first day. I think I will. But who hasn't committed a crime at this point? You got the presidency. You got the Justice Department, right? You got the Supreme Court. You got Congress and the Senate. You got governors. You got state legislators. You have police forces. You have ICE, which are the straight-up Nazis. And then you have military members violating posse comitatus, violating just an ungodly amount of laws. Like, the list goes on. Throat's a little sore, but the list does go fucking on. My first day on Congress, I'm probably just going to go in, like, I'll have, like, one of those inside pockets. I'm going to pull out the cigar, cut it, light it, smoke it, and they're going to be like, what are you fucking doing? I'm like, oh, but wait, there's more. Here's my first bill, impeaching the president. No, impeaching all of you motherfuckers. Well, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's my second bill, impeaching the president and sending him to the prison forever. You can't get rid of him. Come and get me, motherfucker. Okay. Also arrest every single service member who obeyed the unlawful orders in violation of posse comitatus to terrorize citizens. I mean, the list, the amount of acts that I could just wham to get the point across that what's going on is illegal is insane.
This is not what this country was founded on.
Although the president declared a crime emergency in Washington earlier this year, the Justice Department reported that violent crime in D.C. had hit a 30-year low.
Exactly.
Residents went about
exactly
as usual over the weekend, including Jeff Menzer, who we met at a local farmer's market.
I generally feel safe. I go out at night. Fortunately, I do live in a neighborhood that is relatively safe. It actually has an ongoing police presence because it's on Capitol Hill, but random crimes do happen.
But a major reason cited by the Trump administration...
Bruh. There is no amount... Benjamin fucking Franklin himself said, a populace who would sacrifice liberty for the sake of security deserves neither. And you're sacrificing... We've been sacrificing liberty since 9/11. We've been sacrificing liberty for safety since 9/11. And this, 24 years later, is all of that shit coming home to roost. We've been fucking around with fascism for 24 years, and now we're finding out what it looks like. Folks, like, I get that this is all prop, but I'm trying to send a message to you as clearly and as brazenly as possible. This is the bad timeline. God damn it, that this is backwards. This isn't a joke. This is being funny. But it's still not a joke. I feel that is how compelled I am to do all this, because that's how fucking bad shit is. I wish it wasn't this bad. I wish we could have kept the blue background and without the silly hat and without the rifle prop. getting caught on my chair. And the cigar, well, the cigar would have been funny anyway, I think. I think the cigar, it's just, a little personality, right? But this shit is that bad. We have the military marching in our nation's capital, and we have reporters refusing to call it martial law because they are afraid of retaliation from the dictatorship, which is violating the Constitution by being a dictatorship. And today alone, and it's only been 2 hours, today alone we've covered how our elections are being tampered with, that state governments are violating their own constitutions in order to redraw district maps outside of the census. We have elected officials being basically detained and captured in place. We have activists being targeted and arrested. We have law enforcement agents or the deputized bounty hunters still kneeling on necks, which has been outlawed. We have the administration claiming that voting is fraudulent, and we have martial law in our nation's capital. Like, that's just the news from this past 7 days. This isn't a summary of the past 7 months, or even this month, or the last 3 months. This is the past 7 days. Y'all, shit's not good. Shit's be bad. And we really, really need to do something about it. An XSplit needs to be more functional.
For placing the city under federal control was to target juvenile crime in the nation's capital.
Bruh! What?
City under federal control was to target juvenile crime in the nation's capital.
This motherfucker just said, we are witnessing martial law in the nation's capital because of juvenile crime. Juvenile. Kids acting out is why we have martial law in Washington, D.C. Are you fucking serious? Are you kids? Like, yes, are kids capable of committing crimes? Sure. But we are criminalizing behavior of children who are just acting out. Why are they acting out? Probably, and hear me out here, maybe it's because their parents are living in poverty because 60% of the goddamn population is living in poverty. Maybe they don't have food. Maybe they don't have internet. Maybe they don't have video games. Maybe they don't have books. Or the, what do you call this? The Macarena. Not hibachi. Karaoke. There we go. Maybe they don't have karaoke. God knows they don't have malls anymore or bowling alleys. So what are these kids doing? They're bored. They don't have anything to do because their parents don't have money. They're hungry. They're scared because the news is telling them to be scared, and they're bored and they're acting out. So they're gonna commit crimes and do stuff. That's dumb. But they're fucking kids. If the solution to kids acting out is sending in the fucking National Guard, then we have significantly bigger problems. As in, a commander-in-chief that is a goddamn coward, and soldiers who are fucking itching to murder citizens. Which should deeply concern everybody. Bowling alleys cost $100 for 2 people without getting food? Since when is it that expensive? I thought it was like $10 to rent the shoes for like... The fuck? Why would a bowling alley be $100, $50 a person? That's insane. That's beyond insane. The shoes... Well, Ohio, at least my hometown, it doesn't cost 100 people for 2 people. But that's the kind of the problem, though, right? Depending on where you are in the country, it could be egregious, the costs, just to do stuff. And again, poverty begets crime. If you want to prevent crime, you eliminate poverty by not criminalizing it, but by elevating people and providing their material needs. That's how you eliminate poverty, making sure everybody has access to their material needs. This beret also gets itchy because it's wool, I think, knit. That makes it wool, cotton. Jesus. Well, I guess next time Leia's in Ohio, we'll take her bowling. Damn. All right. I cannot fucking believe.
But a major reason cited by the Trump administration for placing the city under federal control was to target juvenile crime in the nation's capital.
That's insane.
The 3 teen carjackers got caught up in traffic,
which soared in Washington during the pandemic as well as around the country.
Yeah, because they were bored and had nothing to do.
Other cities, but then came a highly publicized attack on a Trump administration official by a group of teenagers earlier this month.
I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else.
Shajib Udallah and his wife own this convenience store at Heckinger Mall in Northeast D.C., an area long plagued by crime.
And now they're going to spend 2 minutes on this news report giving a caricature of how there is youth crime in D.C., giving credence to this administration, of which there is none, because there is no justification for martial law, especially if it's against kids. What the flying fuck? If I wasn't amped up before, this video would have fucking gotten me there. That's insane.
President Trump's Washington, D.C. takeover is about to get more intense.
Martial law! Why can't even the influencers say martial law? Am I the only one with the balls to say that it's martial law, that it's fascism, that these are crimes, that it's trafficking, that it's kidnapping? Does Hassan at least call it martial law? Like, for fuck's sake.
National Guard troops patrolling D.C. is expected to double over the next few days. That's because Mississippi, Ohio, South Carolina, and West Virginia have all pledged to send troops. Right now, there are roughly 800...
So even Hassan's afraid to say martial law.
Plus, there are indications that Guard troops may soon be carrying weapons. If so...
Oh, even better!
A reversal of their initial orders and a major escalation.
Yeah.
Now, it's unclear why Trump would be sending in more troops. So far, anyway, federal law enforcement have mostly been patrolling around touristy areas of the city that have fairly low crime rates. Think the National Mall, the Lincoln Memorial, and Union Station.
Which would
the
deter
White House said today that over
tourists.
450 arrests have been made since August 7th. That's when federal law enforcement first took control of the city. Critics have slammed Trump's effort as a...
Yeah, and if you're arresting the unhoused, then that's not crime. That's certainly not preventing violent crime. You are terrorizing a group who already has the least. So, again, even these indie reporters, these influencers, are perpetuating the lies and the myths being perpetuated by this fucking administration. You're going to mention the arrest, but you're not going to mention who they arrested. You're going to talk about the military being there, but you're not going to call it martial law. You're going to talk about the escalation. Thank God you actually are going to talk about that. But you're going to not give credence to the fact that they are staying in targeted touristy areas, like, which is a dog and pony show. Why are these people such fucking cowards? Hassan was... Okay, so he's too handsome. That's fair.
...op and a gross militarization of the district. Crime rates have been declining since 2023, reaching a 30-year low in 2024.
Yeah, so
I'm Kate Martin.
How are you going to get 157 arrests at a 30-year low crime rate? In fact, total number of arrests in D.C. 2024. In 2024, there were 2,000 juvenile arrests and a total of 4,149 arrests that were papered, that were processed through the court system, resulting in 4,103 adult cases filed in Superior Court, which was an 8% increase in arrests. Not sentencing, just arrests. And you can be arrested for anything. Literally anything. So, if there's 4,000 arrests a year, 345 arrests per month, which seems excessive regardless. You can't honestly tell me there are 345 people committing crimes every month in a city. Like, that's just, I don't buy that. But half of those arrests, that monthly quota, was made the week Trump instituted martial fucking law. And people are believing this. People are buying this. People are truly... People truly believe in this shit. People are just taking these facts. 157 arrests since the martial law was implemented in a city that averages 347 arrests in a month. Half of all arrests happened in the first week of martial law, and nobody bothers questioning that or putting two and two together or even looking for those numbers. That's insanity. It's ICE kidnapping brown people for the most part. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, like, that's insane. Dangerous Rhino. How we doing here? Not great. Not great, buddy. We're dealing with martial law in D.C. because of juvenile crime rates and justifying it because apparently no news agency, no reporter, independent or otherwise, has the audacity, the fortitude, the strength of will to do their job, which is protected by the First Amendment in the first place. So, you know, oppression, propaganda, all that shit is what's winning. And that's just disgusting. It's The Hill, so I guess that's not an indie reporter. Fucking wild. I don't give a fuck about businesses. And why do you keep calling it takeover? It's martial law. Well, there we go. Epstein determination. Which, by the way, has anybody noticed how silent the Epstein files have been in the news lately? Crazy, right?
Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer says the Justice Department will start sharing Epstein-related files with his committee as soon as this Friday. The Oversight Committee also questioned its first high-profile witness, former U.S. Attorney General William Barr, about convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez joins us. So this deposition happened behind closed doors, but Republican Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer did share some of what Barr testified about. Bring us in.
Yeah, well, Jim Comer is, being forced really to do these depositions because Republicans want some answers. And as you remember, Mike Johnson, the Speaker, had delayed an effort that was made in the House to actually force these records to be coming out. And so now you have Bill Barr, who came in today. He was in there for several hours. Among the things that he emerged from this was that obviously, Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. That's what the Justice Department has found.
Really? Really? We're still playing that song and dance? Okay.
Remains the finding, and according to this deposition, that's what Barr knew from his own investigation. He also said that he didn't find anything when he reviewed these files, anything to indicate that Donald Trump did anything wrong as part of...
So the former Attorney General under the first Trump administration said Trump did nothing wrong. Crazy.
his long-time friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Listen to Chairman Comer talk about this.
Barr said he's never seen any information that showed that he was in the files, and that he would be shocked if there was anything pertaining to President Trump that was negative that the Biden administration wouldn't have leaked out prior to the presidential election.
Look, no big
surprise. So CNN is supposedly a liberal news network, and they're starting their correspondence here by making the Republicans' lies look believable? Are you fucking kidding me?
From Bill Barr, and we always anticipated that he had very limited information about what is in these files, and so the pressure still is on Pamela for these files to be turned over to the Republicans there who have subpoenaed it, and also for the public eventually perhaps to see some of this.
It struck me who isn't on the list for subpoenas, and that would be Alex Acosta, right? He was the former federal prosecutor who struck.
Oh, so are they just going to talk about this?
Hillary and Bill Clinton are.
Yeah, who cares?
They were told to make sure everything was saved because it appears in preparation for these documents to be turned over to the House that has subpoenaed them.
So is the expectation all of the documents will be turned over?
The expectation at this point is that nothing is going to be withheld. There are going to be redactions, but we don't know.
There's going to be redactions. Hi, Dangerous. There's going to be redactions, which we've already seen, that the FBI has redacted Trump's name over and over and over again in the Epstein files. And that he appears quite frequently throughout all of them. Who did I vote for? Anna voted for me, and I voted for Jill Stein. And in New York City, I think you can write people in. In Ohio, you can't. So I voted for Jill Stein because I wasn't about to vote for Kamala, and obviously I was also not going to vote for Trump. Fascism has no place here. Democracy does, and out of the choices that I had, Jill Stein I felt like was the closest one. So, here's the thing, I got nothing against Jill Stein or the Green Party, but every time I've tried working with the Green Party, it has literally been a clusterfuck. A huge clusterfuck. Secondly, the national organization of the Green Party is also a clusterfuck because there's no centralized organization there, meaning the national party does not coordinate with the state parties unless the state parties request it, which means all of the resources and marketing are limited. Secondly, the Green Party does not know how to market itself or use social media. If you go to the YouTube channel for the Green Party, there's 20,000 subs. The opportunity to use young people in social media to promote the Green Party is astronomically available right now, and they just sit on it every single time. So it's just a friggin' problem all around. The Green Party has a failure of organizing and messaging, for that matter. That said, I really hope they get on that eventually. Fascism is the merger of the corporation and the state. Modern definitions are basically it's a synonym, effectively, for autocracy. So, there you go. Anna has the Webster's definition for you. All right, so this is not what I thought that this video was going to be. What's the hot mic?
For months, we have all been asking for a sustained ceasefire.
Oh shit, that was pro-Palestine. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think to set up a trilateral, you know. So and where do you want to? I think he wants to. I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds. Just sit down. Sit down, everybody.
All right, wow. We just got a hot mic recording of Donald Trump speaking candidly about his relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin and about how he views this entire war. Now, Trump did not know he was being recorded when he was speaking to French President Emmanuel Macron. He didn't know that his mic was still hot. And in this clip that I'm about to play, Trump just gives away the whole game. You see immediately that he's been viewing this entire war through the lens of his own narcissism, which has been obvious from the get-go, but the way he words this statement, it's all about him. It's all about himself, and this war is very clearly all about his own legacy. It's not about the sovereignty of Ukraine or...
Okay, hold on.
I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds. Just sit down. Sit down, everybody.
All right, wow. We just got a hot mic...
I mean, if you're going to embellish this for 8 minutes, that doesn't sound like much of anything. But sure, Trump being manipulated by Russia and being a narcissist, anybody can buy that. There's something else.
Zelensky dresses, or he did before, and he looks at that and demeans him. He thinks that that makes Zelensky weak. Meanwhile, he looks at Putin, and Trump's narcissism brain gets a source of supply, like a little buzz from Vladimir Putin that only confirms that his narcissistic ego is in the right. So in this clip, what Donald Trump says, I almost said Putin, but what's the difference at this point? Donald Trump says in this clip on Putin, quote, "I think he wants to make a deal."
Anna, can you send him one of my videos about Palestine so that we can continue pressing on with this video here?
For me, do you understand? As crazy as it sounds. That's what he says. It does sound crazy.
The one that went viral.
Crank up the volume in the edit so you
it is for me, buddy.
Hopefully the audio is not.
You're asking me, like, you're trying to disrupt the stream by trying to, like, corner me in challenging all of my policy positions. You see that my heading has Free Palestine. I have YouTube videos on it, and today is about U.S. policy. And if you have been watching this stream at all, you'll see that we take the side of the freedom fighter and the people that are oppressed. You can also see in the banner on top here, talking about from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. So I feel like you're just being disingenuous. So no, I am not going to disrupt the stream more than I already have to placate your whatever this is.
Great. Thank you for being on. Yeah, I think to set up a trilat, you know. So, and where do you want to do? I think he wants to make it. I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds. Just sit down. Sit down, everybody.
Okay.
I think we'll let the press come in for a minute.
Okay, so when he says we're going to set up a trilat, he's talking about a trilateral meeting between 3 countries: Ukraine, Russia.
Is there more to this hot mic? Because I'm not seeing it.
To clean up this mess that Donald Trump has created.
All of which is to say, yes, they want to set up a trilat, and he's implying that Zelensky wants to make a deal for him. But in reality, he's been played by Putin like a fiddle since day one. But the fact that he was on a hot mic is pretty, not shocking. Okay, Epstein files imminent as Trump is implicated. Yeah, that's not what that seems like either, because it seems like they're hiding it a lot. Why? What? MAGA girl drama? Why is this even on the playlist?
Of their Sydney Sweeney win, the right-wing influencer girlies are fighting. This whole saga started when Sarah Stock.
You want gay marriage? You want gay couples to be...
I don't think that's worthy of our time either. Wow. Did Trump lose? So there's the 28-minute video and the 10-minute video. Let's just do the 28-minute video. I'm rather curious.
What happened is they rigged the election and I became president.
In this video, I'm going to make the case.
Now see, who cares about the hot mic? Who cares about the hot mic when he's saying it right there on national television for the news to hear? That's fucking wild. I meant to put the video about the MAGA girls going wild with the Nazi shit. Well, that's apparently not that.
And the opportunity to hack the 2024 election. The looming question is whether or not he pulled the trigger on the plan to flip votes in his favor.
And he knows those computers better than anybody, all those computers.
January 20th! That was the day before the inauguration! He was bragging about it getting rigged. Are you fucking kidding me? I thought that was actually after his inauguration. Honestly, that's how crazy this shit has been. I thought this happened after the fact, not before. That's fucking wild.
Those vote counting computers, and we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide, so it was pretty good.
So, let's hear that from the beginning.
Those computers better than anybody, all those computers, those vote counting computers, and we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide.
He literally emphasized and re-emphasized that those were the computers, the political vote counting computers that were being manipulated that ended up being the reason why he won. That's insane. Okay, I was gonna say, like, you don't have to ban him, but, like, being very, very pushy. Yeah.
So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon.
I spent the last 2 weeks.
He literally, but back to this, he literally gave Elon a 15-second bracket, I don't know, shout out of Elon Musk knows those computers very well, those computers, the computers that did the voting in those states, and we won, thank you, Elon. Like, if that's not admitting right there, I don't know what is. Well, it's not even that we have serious, well, we do, but it's not even about that. It's the fact that you're not going to come onto the stream and then, like, dictate what we need to talk about. And also, like you said, we already talked about it, and you're asking a bunch of disingenuous questions.
Interviewing election security experts and evaluating claims that admittedly look a lot like conspiracy theories. Indeed, they echo Trump's big lie that the Democrats rigged the 2020 election against him.
We did great in 2016. A lot of people don't know we did much better in 2020. We won. We did win. It was a rigged election.
While his allegations have been heavily litigated and lost in courts across America, there are important material differences between the 2020 and 2024 elections. Most notably are Trump's own recorded statements and actions over the last 5 years.
That's the point.
Trump's
yes.
obvious intent to manipulate votes. You've probably heard this taped conversation during the interregnum where he talked with the governor of Georgia and asked him to find votes that would illegally flip the state to his favor in 2020 and deliver him the presidency.
Oh, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country.
By 2024, Trump was facing 34 felony convictions for falsifying business.
Yeah, maybe we don't watch the whole thing, because, like, this is getting into the weeds a little bit. The video is about how easy it is to rig the voting machines. The next is about how they rigged the election without even having to rig the computers by using voter suppression tactics. See, what I wish would happen in these kinds of videos, the long ones, is that he would chapter them out so that you could click on what you wanted to hit on next. So this is probably a computer expert, right?
He was also abundantly clear that
were done by the really smart people, say Russia, Iran, China. Probably the hack would erase itself on the way out the door and we would never know it was there.
University of Michigan professor and election researcher Alex Halderman testified in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee in 2017, outlining exactly how bad the situation actually is.
I know America's voting machines are vulnerable because my colleagues and I have hacked them repeatedly.
Jesus!
As part of a decade of research, studying the technology that operates elections and learning how to make it stronger. We've created attacks that can spread from machine to machine like a computer virus and silently change election outcomes. We've studied touchscreen and optical scan systems, and in every single case, we've found ways for attackers to sabotage machines and to steal votes. These capabilities are certainly within reach for America's enemies.
His testimony was focused...
I mean, he said America's enemies. He didn't say foreign adversaries, did he? He said enemies. And quite frankly, this administration and the Republican Party is an enemy of the United States of America, if you believe in the thing called the Constitution and laws and due process and all that. And this guy blatantly said, like, not only do I know that they're vulnerable, it's because I personally hacked them. That's insane. Here's a guy who's like, not only do I know our systems are vulnerable, I've done it myself. I have done the vulnerable thing. I have hacked them. I know it is a problem because I have said in my reports from my own experience, from my own actions, that they are vulnerable. That's nuts. And the fact that that wasn't the only thing being spewed on the news for, like, ever until it got fixed is, again, a failure of the Biden administration, the Trump administration, every administration since that report hearing was given. Again, if the purpose is to empower democracy, and you want to use tools to leverage that, then you would want to bend over backwards to make sure that the most simple, basic thing, i.e. the ability to vote, right, and that not to be threatened, is secure. And they're not. And they haven't been. And then you have Trump bragging about it the day before his inauguration. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Kamala got a letter after the election asking her to challenge the results and explaining how it may have been rigged. It was from credible sources, but the Democrats don't challenge Republicans. They challenge the Green Party and anyone to their left. And that was discussed in the video too. Well, crazy, because you would think if you really wanted to win the election and become the first female president and break all of those glass ceilings, that you would have gone bent over backwards to challenge it.
On Russia, but the lessons pertain...
The most important swing states or swing counties. Find areas with the weakest protection and strike there. In a close election year, changing a few votes in key localities could be enough to tip national results. The key lesson from 2016 is that these threats are real.
Not sure if you saw the news, but Fox News is claiming President Trump is declining in the polls.
Wow.
President Trump responded.
And after his...
We got a Newsmax ad? Are you fucking serious?
Committee, one open and to the public, and another that was redacted just for Senate officials.
I have read Alex's unredacted report. My take is that the unredacted report says exactly how you can compromise the system for every single one of them.
That Senate report was an exact blueprint for how someone could flip the election to the...
So wait a minute. This guy gave a report on how to rig elections and infiltrate these machines, and then miraculously that information gets buried, right? They don't end up using that information for 2020 to get Biden in there, but then we just don't question it for the 2024 elections. Like, I get it. We don't want to have to question whether or not our elections are valid. I get that. I don't want to have to question the validity of it. But when you have experts in the fact that the person who won bragged about the election being rigged in their favor, makes you kind of want to bend over backwards to find out exactly how that was happening and possible, and if there's any validity to it.
Leave only a minimal footprint behind. It wouldn't take a vast network
she was just going for a cash grab, apparently,
of individuals to put their fingers on the scale. Such a conspiracy would only require a few people getting access to voting machines and install malware and smart code to change the result of an election by a small enough margin that it wouldn't trigger a mandatory recount.
I guess.
It could be done with a thumb drive and a few minutes alone with a election computer. 3 separate security experts that I spoke to affirmed that the situation has not improved substantially since 2017. The dangers of digital elections are so well understood that they were indeed mainstays of the Republican Party's talking points for 4 straight years. Besides their baseless claims that Democrats were busing in immigrants to pose as legal voters and registering to look like in practice. And percent another, that data is going to have to be heavily manipulated. Would that definitely leave a fingerprint that people would find? In the case of a sophisticated threat actor who closed the door on their way out?
I would think the answer is no, it would not leave something that you would find, because the right way to do this would be put a little random number generator that switches 1 in 20 votes at the place you're interested in. And 1 in 20 depends on what you think the margin is going to be in that particular state. So you switch a small number. If people notice, the normal response is going to be to shut down that voting computer and not to assume it's been hacked. And, second time around, is the voter likely to have the same 5% change? Not likely. And the other problem, people have put in software that only makes the changes on election day. So if you're doing testing in advance of election day, this is like the Volkswagen test with the emissions controls. If it wasn't test day, it was normal. If it was test day, it faked the data.
Over the last few months.
Yeah, see, I know a little bit about programming. I know a little bit about programming in the sense that I made an app using Unity, which is a... Oh, crap, what do you call that now? Jeez, why is my brain not working right now? An engine, a game engine. Unity is a game engine, specifically for gaming programming, right? Game-based programming. You can make other apps with it, but it is intended as a game engine. I can code in that. Hacking is a whole different can of worms. And like you said, a random number generator, and that's easy enough to do, but then it's in the code. And you have to insert that random number generator in such a way that it doesn't break any of the other logic in the scripts. So the only way that could work is if you somehow modularize it, plug it in, it goes and does its thing, and then you remove it, and that removes any trace of the hack, because the random number generator wasn't code that was inserted into the script. It was something that ran the script, because you had to have known how the script worked, which either A, meant inside job, or B, the script itself is so fucking simple that all you have to do is follow the functioning, and you can write workarounds. Call this, run this, call that, and make it look seamless. Which, if you know anything about programming to even an intermediate or marginally beginner level, you could write code to do that. I don't know that I necessarily could, but like if you do programming professionally, you should be able to do something at that level. And that's how vulnerable these voting systems are. And sure, fine, they talked about sophistication, but that's the thing. The trace would be if you left code, or if you traced signals and all that other stuff. Again, I'm not as familiar with the terminology, but the fact that they are saying that you could just be a guy and just walk in there, do this, do that, or make it so it only works on election day. Like, that's insane. And the fact that it is that vulnerable and it hasn't been addressed, and again, Trump openly bragging about it, is deeply, deeply concerning.
Two organizations, the Election Truth Alliance and the Common Coalition, have posited several theories about what Trump's team might have done. The one gaining the most traction online right now is, well, it's sort of convoluted. The Common Coalition argues that voting machines were accessed on Election Day through Starlink satellites that communicated directly with the universal power converter devices that provided consistent power to the voting machines, and
that is a bit convoluted.
They were able to hack the code through these UPCs, and it's sort of bananas. And as I noted in my video about Palantir, they see connections between one of the founders of the Federalist Society, Leonard Leo, and Elon Musk for this elaborate and feels a little bit like connecting red strings on a cord. In between, researchers I spoke with said it was implausible as well. Not only hardware, phone, and all the
God damn it.
Take what you do best and create a website.
Well, the dude spends like 5 minutes discussing every point, which is fine, but like, bro, we got shit to do here.
Well, no, we just have to go and win in 2026, and then we'll think about it later. My counterpoint to that would be, how on earth do you think that would be, if you think it is possible and you don't want to address it, how are you thinking about future elections in 2026, and why is this not of more concern to you?
And there are two pieces of evidence that the ETA cites that are worth delving into deeper. The first is a report that they worked on in conjunction with the University of Ann Arbor political scientist Walter Mebane, who analyzed voting data in Pennsylvania. Mebane developed a way to detect fraudulent votes in elections using statistics pretty all across the world, from Mexico. Analysis of the Pennsylvania election, quote, the statewide total across precincts of the eForensics fraudulent votes model, and then he gives some numbers, 225,440 exceeds the statewide gap of
so that's the math thing. They were saying that the likelihood of all of those precincts and all of those votes switching to be that number is far in excess of what it should have been possible to do.
20,266 votes between Trump and Harris, which is to say that in the election data he was able to access, there is enough statistical signal to suggest that there were enough fraudulent votes to flip the election in Harris's favor. The paper has become a rallying point for people looking for proof in the election statistics themselves.
So, like, this paper came out in 2024?
The paper has become a rallying
Like, when did this paper come out?
Point for people.
May 8th, 2025. So, this paper came out May 8th, 2025. I don't remember talking about that in May 8th, 2025, and we were streaming then. I don't remember this paper at all. This is the first time hearing about it. So, if I didn't hear about it, if Anna didn't hear about it, and it wasn't in the news, then why it's buried? Why are we just now hearing about this? That's fucking wild to me. And this is something that should be covered more often. So, Thursday, let's find something to do with Dr. Walter Mebane expert analysis.
Looking for proof in the election statistics themselves. But I have to admit that I have now read 3 of Mebane's papers, and the math, it's just too complex for me, a non-mathematician, to completely digest. Now, I reached out to him for clarification, and to note to him that his paper has been the basis for people. He wrote back to me. Thanks for your interest. I'm not focused on claims about 2024, nor following the conversation in online media. My working paper about Pennsylvania in 2024, URL, that the ETA highlighted, is now part of a looking for media.
So, he's an academic who wants to be left the fuck alone and get his Nobel or his journal. But, okay, fine, so he's not an activist. He doesn't have to be an activist, but the thing is, he did do the work, which clearly shows that Pennsylvania could have flipped And I don't know if that would have prevented the Trump win with just Pennsylvania, but once you start applying that same algorithm to the other states...
Which I have to say, come on, me Bain, you can't just drop a burning. And has been working on this long before the 2024 election, so it fits into the pattern of his work. So I'm going to have to put this as sort of an ambiguous, problematic piece of data that personally I can't evaluate. But there is another piece of statistical data that is the presidential ticket and the senatorial and down party tickets, and found a glaring problem that they termed the drop-off rate.
Yes. Now this we did talk about. People who vote for the president typically also vote for the senator and the congressman as well. People typically, if they're going to skip anything, it's going to be county or state, county, and local. But they're not going to skip the federal spot. If they vote for the president at all, they are not going to skip the Senate and the Congress. And vice versa. If they're going to vote for Congress or Senate, they're not going to skip president. They're just not. They're going to vote other if they don't like the Republican or the Democrat. Or they're going to vote for the opposite just to spite the other. So, no.
Rate is the difference between votes at the presidential level of the ticket and the down ballot races. In other words, it calculates how many people split their voting tickets, going blue or red at the top and then switching sides down below. Now, while dropping off does happen in every election, they found that in every single swing state, the drop-off was much higher than had ever been found before. To quote their analysis for just North Carolina, the Democratic drop-off in North Carolina is negative in every county because according to the official election results, in every county in North Carolina, Kamala Harris got fewer votes than the Democratic Attorney General candidate.
Now, don't get me wrong. Is it possible that people voted Democrat and just not voted for Kamala? Sure. But in every single county, she was such an unpopular Democratic presidential nominee candidate that every single Democrat who voted Democrat just, or not every single, but enough, didn't vote for her too? Like that doesn't add up at all. Team Red took Pennsylvania fraudulently. Well, it's not even that. It's also the statistical anomalies of people just not voting for Kamala despite voting blue in red states. And that's the problem, is that there are just too many inconsistencies with how the votes were cast, counted, and tallied compared to historical votes that were cast in the same areas.
While in those same counties that voted for Trump as president also selected the Republican candidate for Attorney General. And this is an absurd result because it's not consistent with rationality. And it doesn't make any sense since almost everyone in this incredibly polarized America votes their whole ticket.
Right.
So I also analyzed this same data point in just swing states and found the same incredibly troubling pattern. To quote their findings, this means that according to these results...
Okay, dude, you take too long to read. The contrast is low in most states we examined and actually in negative territory more than half of this data set. In Arizona, Carolina, and Ohio, the Democratic drop-off is 5% or lower. That means that according to these results, 5% or more Democratic-leaning voters chose to vote for the Democratic Senate candidate but decided not to vote for the Democratic candidate for president. In Arizona, example, there is almost a 16% spread between the Republican and Democratic drop-off. Which... I mean, even that sounds pretty egregious. Well, negative, right? So 5% is a statistical anomaly in this case. In elections, regardless, 5% of just not doing something that is typical is a massive, massive controversy.
You want ads that drive
God damn
us.
it.
That's why we built Roku Ads Manager.
Really? You're giving us an ad about managing ads for your product that has ads, so we can do the ads manager for your ad for your program that creates ads for the program viewer. Go fuck yourself. Jesus Christ.
A recount in Rockland County, New York, where the drop-off rate was an astounding 23%.
Jesus.
Their hope is to use this data as a beachhead to could
that you can confirm that. Like it is a tough thing to be trying to reach for a smoking gun when what you need for that is to work with states and counties to go and examine the ballots and to do investigations. Like that is how you get proof. That is how you find evidence.
So where does this leave us? There is
So a county in New York had a 23% drop-off. New York being one of the most blue states in the country, next to like California and Illinois. Right. It went to her anyway, but that's not the point. If the corruption was that blatant in New York because it wouldn't matter because she's going to win it anyway, that that 5% makes a whole lot more sense because you couldn't have a brazen 23% in the South. That would be obvious. 5% in the South is still pretty blatant, but not 23% blatant.
Absolutely an incentive on the left to call the integrity of the 2024 election into question based on their personal biases alone. We can see the proliferation of complex and convoluted analysis of QAnon after 20 left evidence of current election security, especially in swing states.
Is there any other
vulnerable? They variously told me.
Who even is this lady?
In 2024, and all of the different pieces that got brought forward to lawsuits, all of that. Great, that's good. It's good to make sure that you are doing that due diligence.
One thing that Trump, Elon, and I can agree on is that we need to get rid of voting machines and go back to paper ballots. That is.
Well, we had this conversation at the beginning of our stream, and that's actually a good point to wrap all of our stream up with. Paper ballots are ideal. Yes, paper ballots can't be lied. Cannot be lied about, cannot be manipulated or anything, right? You can't hack paper, right? With the mighty pen, the sword, right? So you write your name, but as we discussed with paper ballots, they can just flat out disappear. This happened. This is literally how Bernie Sanders was denied his election. Oh, darn, Hillary got the nomination. Oh, darn, she lost the general election. Oh, would you look at that? Bernie had boxes upon boxes of ballots of votes in his favor. So, although paper ballots are superior, are definitely safer, if people are the ones that have to, fundamentally deal with the paper, and counting them or delivering them and distributing them, then you have to have a highly integrity-focused system and infrastructure with people who are not partisan, which is difficult in any presidential election year because who doesn't have an opinion on who's going to lead the country, right? So you would almost need something like the United Nations to come in and oversee the election, which will never happen. But with paper ballots, that's the risk you run into, is just ballots getting thrown out. Or even worse, because this administration is extremely racist and is already terrorizing Latino communities. These are Latino ballots. They're all illegal. So now 20% of the vote has been thrown out. 20% of the vote, which leans heavily towards liberal, blue, left-leaning politicians, and candidates. Now, it's the same racist, discriminatory administration. It's like, oh, look at all these black votes. It would be a shame if they disappear too. Oh, let's see what the divide is between white people. Nope. Too many for the blue guy. We got to get rid of them. So, do you see where I'm going with this? With paper ballots, there's even more opportunity for corruption and abuse than with voting machines. Now, granted, voting machines just need to be made secure. Put the DOD's firewall on it. Call it a day. That would be one way to solve the problem. Make it blockchain. Oh, crypto, it's evil. Oh, it's evil. No, but blockchain is an intrinsically secure programming method that also requires multiple activities to be engaged in order to decrypt it. But you can't hack blockchain. That's the point of blockchain. So if we did a blockchain voting system, guess what? Secure. And it would create coins. So you get a coin every time you vote, and now you can spend it on something. I don't fucking know. I don't care. There are technologies available to make our voting machines tamper-proof or very, 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 very secure. Like, again, banking software. You can't... When's the last time you heard of a bank getting hacked? Right? We've heard of universities getting hacked. We've heard of businesses getting hacked. But when was the last bank that you heard of getting hacked? Just saying, if banks can figure that shit out, why aren't we putting that stuff on the voting machine? Now, that takes us to 10 o'clock. My throat is obviously dying on me. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you and appreciate your guys' support and involvement in the stream. It seems like we can't escape trolls, but hey, I will figure out the alien marks. They're watching. And I hope you enjoyed the changes I made to the stream. The rebel flag up there, behind here. And then this new screen. We, of course, have the classics, right? The Oval Office. But I just thought it would be neat if I lose my mind to not necessarily lose my mind in the Oval Office. But I appreciate feedback, so hopefully you guys found it enjoyable. We will see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. Worldwide Wednesdays, we will be talking about foreign affairs and whatever nonsense this country has done to stir up shit in the world. So on that note, everybody, take care. Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of your night, and see you tomorrow. Ronan, out.